Welcome, Bassstronauts. This is Teal's Bass Galaxy, an endless dimension of fishing legends and degenerates connecting through raw, real, in-person conversations and stories. No, this is not your average fishing podcast. There's no rules. There's no limits. 3, 2, 1, blast off. This podcast is intended for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Teal's Bass Galaxy is now offering intergalactic merchandise. That's right, we got apparel now, baby. Check out our website. We got a variety of apparel, hats, bucket hats, sweatshirts, t-shirts, all the finest goods. So stop on our website, tealsbassgalaxy.com, click on the apparel tab, and start looking good, baby. It's been confirmed. Aliens from another planet have landed on Earth. Sources say there's been 2 confirmed landing points for these extraterrestrial beings. One being Japan, and also, unexpectedly, in Minnesota at Waypoint Angler Supply, a local tackle shop on Lake Minnetonka. With the ever-expanding universe, it's no surprise that there are other planets out there that also share our love for the sport of bass fishing. And to Earth's surprise, this latest visit came from extraterrestrial fishermen light years away and many innovations ahead when it comes to fishing equipment. Some hypothesize these beings came from the planet of Naboo, matching up with Mayan folklore dating back thousands of years with fishing equipment ahead of their time. It has been confirmed they left things never seen before by an Earth-born bass. Waypoint Angler Supply is the premier space station in the bass galaxy and has tackle that could previously only be found in Japan or the planet of Naboo. The Waypoint ship is full, but we don't know when the Bassstronauts from Naboo will be back. So hurry in to Waypoint Angler Supply today and stock up on that Area 51 Planet of Naboo JDM good before your buddy is whooping that sweet ass of yours. Stop into their store on Lake Minnetonka or visit their website, waypointanglersupply.com. That's waypointanglersupply.com. Use the code GALAXY2024 to save 20% on your next order at Waypoint. The Bass Galaxy is also supported by Veselka Fishing and Customs, Supreme Lending, Dream Team, Lake Country Insurance Services, My Wedge Motor Support, Supreme Lure Company, just north of Memphis, Barbecue and Catering. Thank you. Well, I think this means it's official now, Hellabass. It's a pleasure to have you over to the Bass Galaxy today, dude.
Excited to finally officially make it to the Galaxy. I feel like I'm probably on a list of people that was the longest in process. I feel like we were talking about it before you filmed a pilot about trying to set a date.
Yes. I feel like you and I have been, like, you're the guest I've been playing tag the longest with, and I guess I know we've been trying to do this since the beginning, so... You're a dad, you're a big YouTube guy, you're a tournament angler, you're a husband, and I think you have a career as well, so, I totally get it. Life's busy, life's crazy, and times is weird, so.
Yeah, obviously 2 guys that got a lot of irons in the fire, trying several different hustles, right, to keep things going, and so that makes both of our schedules hard to line up.
Well, we were at the Intune open house yesterday, and I was, doing some thinking. I was like, wow. In the last week, I've worked a boat show, sold advertising for 30 to 40 hours, bartended, worked an open house, and recorded a podcast all in the same week.
You have a weird bug on your shoulder. Oh. Crisis averted.
Invasive?
Yeah, for me, so I worked a full-time job, dropped my family off at the airport, half of them, did a goalie dad soccer game, did 2 live streams, an open house, got a video out and today doing a podcast, and still got to go to a hockey meeting tonight.
That's all.
And then pick
it feels.
and then pick the
here
family
we
up
go
at the
again.
airport tonight. So
That's what's up, dude. That's a busy life.
yeah.
Yeah. So how do you manage all that? I guess I've got more questions than that, but I think that balance is. I'm starting to realize that balance feels like more of an illusion than a possible reality. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, it's definitely just prioritization. A lot of it's family first, making sure that you're keeping the bills paid and day job, and then honestly, it's just cutting stuff. Like I don't spend a lot of time watching Netflix. I mean, I will with the missus. Maybe we'll watch something, but like I don't just sit by myself and watch Netflix. I don't sit and watch much sports anymore. I don't watch. I mean, we cut the cable, got rid of most TV.
Yep.
I don't watch Viking games until after the lakes freeze. Like if I got a Sunday, I'm not watching the Vikings. If I can be out slinging a chicken or a drop shot or something like that. Like I remember one in September or whatever the season started, I was out on Crystal Lake, which is right in Burnsville, right?
Yep.
Metro gets pressured. And I was out there on a Sunday and I was like, man, there's like nobody out. It's a beautiful day. What's going on? And then by noon, I was like the only boat in the parking lot.
Fikes, baby.
And all of a sudden I looked at my phone and there's like the Google thing, like it's like, oh yeah, Fikes are up 7-3 or whatever. I was like, oh, I forgot that they were even started today.
Right. Well, I watch the Wild. That's it. So I've got a record player inside, and I've got a TV that I'll move from my bedroom, and I'll move it out when I want to watch the Wild game, or else it just literally collects dust in my bedroom. I just HDMI it and pirate that shit. But it's amazing how much. Like I used to watch Netflix with my ex-girlfriend or whatever, and looking back, it is amazing how much time people waste on that shit.
I mean, some people need, that outlet, but I think you gotta figure out what do you really, how much do you really need? But for me, a lot of this stuff, like the fishing stuff, the YouTube, the podcasts, that is kind of my outlet at the same time, even though it's a little bit of a business venture at times, but that is also my escape from some other stuff.
It's my escape, dude. It's my favorite thing to do of all the things I do besides catch a bass. I mean, talking about bass fishing, learning from, good anglers and other people. I mean, that's something that I love doing, whether we're recording or not. So it's, I can relate with that for sure. And it's been cool to see you grow. And I guess I want you to know that as an angler and as a media person, I look up to you. And I've been watching you for a while, and it seems like, this media game's a little bit of a grind, but I do want to kind of delve into your story a little bit on how you kind of got started with it, just because we've talked maybe a little bit about it, but I'm curious because I don't know if we got to like the roots or the beginning of, and how long have you been creating content? And I know you've been fishing state tournaments and qualifying for national championships and really establishing a name for yourself there for quite some time. So the YouTube thing, when did that kind of come about with that?
Yeah, I don't think I did some trivia on my channel to give away a Powerhouse lithium battery not that long ago. And so
Nice
I dug up
batteries.
some of this stuff, and shout out Intune Marine's got those if anybody's interested.
They do. I do have questions about those.
Yeah, we'll get into that
So,
later.
Yeah.
But it actually, I mean, I think I started doing like a few uploads around 2010-ish, but super casual. And I was doing some stuff with a guy named Greg Huff, and we had this idea where I'd like film, and we were really at that time trying to get create some content that could turn in, back then it was more like I want to do a fishing show, right?
Sure.
Like back then you didn't think of YouTube as a place that you could like make a business or make a living at that time. It was very young. But it was like you could create a film and maybe you'd be like building a pilot or a season and you could show it to somebody. It was more the idea. And Greg's super good guy. Wasn't really responsible with the footage, timing, got a few videos out. It was some of us, anyways, we got a few videos up. But before that, like going back, I don't know how long, like early 2000s, I actually was, the thing that really got me started in content creation was doing like a blog, like the Rich's Bassin blog back in the day. And like, I was like, man, back then I go back and look at something because they're still out there in like this archive. They don't really get any much traffic anymore, but like back then you couldn't search like much without me coming up on the first or second page back then. It was kind of cool, like the beginnings of search engine optimization and things like that, just getting that daily, or I was probably writing a couple blogs a week back then. a lot of it was like fantasy fishing. It was like covering the Bassmaster and the FLW tours back then, techniques, talking about my tournaments,
Definitely
my fishing.
read some of those.
Yeah, and it was
especially
kind of
river
like
stuff and-
it was kind of a mixture of a journal. Back when I was fishing the Bassmaster Weekend Series, missed that trail a ton, and covering some of the tournaments. And when I went and fished an Elite Series event as a co-angler, like on Amistad, there's like the state tournaments, the DQ on the state tournament, all that stuff's all logged on the blog way back in the day. And that's where it started, and then it slowly evolved into YouTube.
You remember what year that was? Not to interrupt you.
The DQ?
Like, no, when you started your blog, do you remember what year that was? Because
if I had to guess, 2004, 2005, somewhere in there, probably. Like almost 20 years ago.
music was still good when you were starting that
I mean, people
blog.
were doing like mini discs, MP3
Yeah,
players, and
yeah.
weird. Like that was probably like Napster time and like all that.
Dude, that was like the come up of
Right.
what we're like. That was the foundation of what we're seeing today. And now, I mean, aside from like the only thing I can really think of that you can maybe consider a blog would be like a Kumar Bass Blaster. Is there really even a blog? Is blogging even a thing anymore? Because
I think there is people still doing
is
it.
the written word still a thing in this world?
It can be, yeah. I think people still do okay with blogs. I still have it. Occasionally I post to it. I should do more. Like, actually, Tactical Bassin. Still, like, every one of their videos is, like, backed up with a written blog with the video embedded. I don't know how many people find that.
So you like script the video basically.
Or
into
kind
a
of like
written blog.
re-script it or kind of paraphrase it, and then the blog is like, or the video is embedded in it, and then they have pictures of the baits and all their Tackle
sure.
Warehouse affiliate links and all that stuff. For all, like, if I had more time or an intern, I would love to be able to like
Really cater to every demographic.
yeah, just like have the text and everything. I mean, because I still write fantasy fishing articles for Bassmaster.
Yeah.
Those get a lot of people read that stuff. But yeah, so back to the right. So then, yeah, fantasy or meddling with YouTube in the mid 2000s.
Get an MP3 player, start a blog.
Yeah. So and then I kind of dabbled with it, but I kept in the fantasy fishing for a while. And then when I made that Gunnersville regional in like 2018, maybe ish, I was like, I need to get back on this YouTube thing. And I started, and it was the fantasy fishing thing that actually kind of got me back into it. Like I'm going to do these videos every time, because that's like, back then it was FLW and Bass. And so I was like, well, that's like 20 videos that I know I can knock out, and then I'll do other stuff. And so I started getting back into it at that time. And then, that was about a year or so of gaining traffic. Kind of went from like, I think I had about 500 or 700 subscribers when I decided to get back serious into it. And got reached out to Bassmaster. They actually found that, and they thought, hey, we'd like to have you, somebody dropped off their list of pundits. They reached out and like, hey, we like what you're doing on this. Can you write some articles for us? Sure. And then as we rolled into
like
so as we
the
rolled
YouTube
into
channel time.
yeah, so rolled into COVID, right, which was what, 2019, 2020.
Yep.
I'd kind of started to get, I was building a little momentum, had made that grind, which right, gotten from like 600 to 1,000 subscribers, but I was short on watch time. And then we rolled into COVID. It's like, man, like, and then it's like, are the boat ramps going to be open? Like, are we going to be able to fish tournaments? It was all this weird stuff. We're trying to flatten the curve, all this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We're not get political here, but like,
No, I don't give a shit. Like, it was
anyway,
a weird time,
but
dude.
then it was like,
you could like kill people by breathing during that time.
Kevin Baxter and Smallmouth Crush, right? They were doing some live, and I was like, I want to try this. This looks fun, and I think it's a good time to get my selfishly wanted to get my watch time up to get monetization at that time.
That if you got a goal, timing's inevitable, and it like every crisis creates a potential opportunity. And I mean, if Nancy Pelosi's capitalizing on that shit, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to.
Right. So I think it was April 2020 was my first live stream. I think that's right. It was one of those later winters. It wasn't like this year. It wasn't like we weren't going to have open water in March that year.
Yeah.
It was like, a first live stream I did was with Bailey Egbert from the Serious Angler when he was still doing his podcast.
Seems like a really good dude.
Yeah, cool dude. It was sitting in the little Bass Cat in the garage. The signal wasn't that good. The camera wasn't that good. It was the free StreamYard. It was like, but we did it, and people showed up. I don't know, probably had like 20, 30 people the first stream right out of the gate. And I was like, man, and there was like this interaction. And at that time, a lot of us, if you remember, were a little bit starved for interaction. We weren't hanging out with our bassin buddies in a garage like this in person,
right?
Drinking beers. We're sitting at boat ramps. We weren't talking baits, right? And it was like, this is awesome. And I think other people needed that too. So from the very beginning, my show always was very engaging with the chat.
I've noticed that.
So that's one thing that I try to do. I mean, because there's a lot of different live streams, a lot of different podcasts, a lot of different shows.
For sure.
A lot of them are very good. They have their different avenues. And for whatever reason, I've gravitated to making the chat and the community very much part of the show.
Which is a big deal. And that's what makes your show special, is you're engaging with your audience. And I think there's not too many other shows, I don't think, that do that quite as engaging with the audience.
Yeah, I haven't seen it much. I mean, some people are like, oh, at the end of the show, we'll take a few questions, or like, hey, we'll mention one or two comments. But mine is, I try to make it very much, they drive the show. I'll have a couple bullet points of things I might want to touch on with a guest, or that I might want to cover if I'm going solo. But a lot of times it's the audience drives where the show goes. What's current? What do people want to know?
And that's super unique. And I can, attest to that. I've chimed in on that, like thinking, usually you'd comment on something and, there's no way you're getting acknowledged, but sure as shit, that guest of yours is answering my question, and then I ask a follow-up question that, is going a step deeper than that, and all of a sudden we're going deeper down the rabbit hole, and I'm sitting at my house just bored night eating
wild game
Cheetos,
on one street.
Yeah.
Hellabass on the smartphone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which can be, as we've gotten a bigger traction and have some lives where we've got a couple hundred live, it's much more challenging to keep up with the chat and be able to get everybody's question. So that is a challenge as we grow, but try to keep that part of it. It's still fun.
Totally. Well, like with this whole brand building thing or media side of the sport, if it's, it's something that's become really important if you want to become a pro angler. And I guess to me, there's some parallels with fishing and brand building as far as, like, for example, the best fishermen I've talked to, they do it their way. They pave their own style. They kind of, figure out their lane, so to speak, and they really double down and exploit that. And I feel like whether you're podcasting, no matter what you're doing in life, there's something to be said about that. You've kind of found your stride or your niche with the YouTube thing, right? And it's interacting with the community. And I would say that I've found a different type of medium, right? If I did the same thing as Hellabass, I'm not going to get the same results as Hellabass. He's better at it than me, right? Or whatever.
Yeah. I mean,
at the end of the day,
you got to be genuine to what your thing is, for sure.
Totally. It's your identity. It's who you are, and it's part of you now. And I guess to me, it's just cool and unique what you've done, and I just wanted to give you props for that, dude.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I'm learning, and I'm still young and aspiring to do some of this stuff and having fun so far. But what are some challenges that you have, I guess, really faced that have been, harder challenges than you were anticipating with doing that?
Yeah, I can't say there's been any. I mean, the time, right? The balance, the family stuff is probably the biggest thing, making it all work. I think doing the YouTube, you definitely get some flack from other people, right? They're like, oh, he's just, whatever. Like, he's just doing it to get views or just doing this. And, like, oh, we got to run our camera during the tournament. And it's like, a lot of people don't like that. They don't like seeing their lake in a tournament. They don't like seeing you showing a jig, a top water. Why are you showing them this? Nobody knew about the Zoom speed crawls, the Carolina rig in the river. Like, yeah, people know about that. Like, it wasn't that big of a secret. Like, I mean, I don't know. Just people like get all bent out of shape about stuff being talked about. And there's that kind of that old guard of secrecy. And I guess I know I have some close friends that aren't really like that excited about like sharing that, but I've always been like a pretty much open book. Like, I guess that's, if you think about the foundations of my, right, it's like building a community, interacting, and then it's like, I mean, I guess that's like helping you catch more big bass and suck less. I want to share. I want to help people. Like,
that's your motto.
I'm very competitive when I fish tournaments. I like to do well, but I'm not big. I mean, there's a couple things I don't share, but for the most part, I'm pretty open book as far as like how I'm catching them. I'm not big on like sharing GPS spots and things like that.
Yeah,
I don't get too bent out about like, if somebody can see a house or a dock or a tree or something in the
It blows
background.
my mind how good people are.
Yeah,
at that.
and that's like whatever. Like, but the thing is, like, you got to find new fish all the time, anyways. Like, those
Totally.
spots don't really last, and especially with today's electronics. It's like you kind of got to just keep finding new ones, anyways. But
Yeah,
that's
it's like
probably
cheating on a math test. Like, you ain't getting better at math.
right.
So if you want to be better at fishing and you're going to just grab a bunch of dots, it's basically like cheating on a math test. And if you want to be a math professor, you probably shouldn't cheat on that math test, right? Same
Yeah.
with fishing, dude.
I mean, it's helpful to get put in the right direction sometimes, but
For
you know,
sure.
kind of unpacking it yourself, and yeah,
You know, it's one thing to say coontail that tops off, 7 to 10 feet down, and looking at, the more clumpy version of that, go find it, right? Or
even just like, hey, the lower third of this lake is where you should spend your time, or like here's
Well,
4 or
that's a
5
lot. I
or
mean-
horse, or yeah, but I'm saying here's 4 or 5 creeks maybe you should
Oh,
focus,
yeah.
just things like that can save you some time. Versus there's sometimes like some dead zones in lakes, not so much where we live, but when you go down south, it's nice to get a little bone thrown your way to shorten the curve a little bit for sure.
Yeah. Do you think you being like filming your fishing and stuff, has that affected your fishing at all? I know, like, talking to certain people, and for me, it's another thing to think about. It's another thing, aspect. There's another set of eyes on you, so to speak, in the boat all day. Have you noticed a challenge with balancing that?
I think I've kind of worked on my system to alleviate that. Like, I've got it kind of set up where I've got battery systems in place, and if it comes down to it, like if it's going to take me more than 30 seconds or a minute to reboot a camera or something, like it's going to get thrown in the rod locker and I'm going to be fishing. Like,
I respect that.
At the end of the day, like I'm not going to spend 20 minutes fiddling with GoPros and things like that. But a lot of it is like you can, fast idling before you get on plane, you can switch a battery, and then like, you gotta, if you're in 2 feet of water, you got to get out to 4 before you probably hammer down anyway. So you got 30 seconds, same thing with like eating a snack. Like people say
Right.
they don't eat all day. I can eat a granola bar as I'm like putting my life jacket on or something. So I've kind of set up most of the systems to minimize any distractions during the tournament.
But like, my question is, that is 8 hours of footage. How do you?
And sometimes 2 cameras for 8 hours
Well,
to make
right.
it interesting.
Well, right. So they got that like GoPro remote thing, right? That you can start and stop. So like, is it the type of thing where you hit stop and then re-record after each fish catch, and that kind of helps you, timestamp it later? Because to me, that's like the only way to do it versus having to like rewatch 8 hours. Even
Yeah.
though you'd probably learn a lot about how you fished that day and where you kind of got lackadaisical, or where you maybe got a little bit more complacent with this area, or didn't you notice something that you didn't pick apart maybe as good as you wanted to. I'm sure there's learning lessons with that too. I didn't really totally even think about that. If you have
Yeah.
that kind of time, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I don't spend a lot of time like, I mean, I will if there's something I remember. I'll like, what happened there, or why did I lose that fish, or or go back to like, hey, like
Nice fucking backlash to
maybe
you.
I got a tournament coming up, on Vermilion this year. Maybe I'll go back and kind of fast forward to some of those old tournament videos and be like, refresh how it went down and what I would have maybe done different or something like that. But to the so the filming, I usually have one chesty and then one at the council.
Sure.
And so after everything, every fish catch, I hit stop, so that fish catches are at the end of every clip.
Yep.
And so there's a button right here. Then there's a button as I'm walking back to the live well, I can hit the other one. So
Sure.
they should be pretty close. And then there's some pretty good audio syncing features in the software. It
What
does
do you
take
use
some
for
time.
that?
DaVinci Resolve is a
Okay.
good free one that's got a ton of power.
I'm
So
trying to figure out how to get AI to work for me. There's
Yeah.
some stuff coming out. It's just you need this certain type of software,
Mm-hmm.
and that whole world is such a weird world with the different software and trying to navigate that. That's been one of our bigger hurdles.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, that's a place that's probably, it'd be nice to be able to, I don't know. It'd be interesting if I could just drop all my footage into
We're not far from
this
that.
black hole and it just comes out with a banger tournament video. That'd be pretty sweet. I don't know how quickly that's going to happen, but
I bet it'd be less than 5 years. Like, dude, that curve is like, I
Sure.
don't AI what that's going to do to fishing. That topic hasn't been touched yet, but
Right.
but we're all bitching about live sonar. We haven't even seen this artificial intelligence and
Well,
its full capabilities.
you're kind of seeing, I mean, right? Like I think the Humminbird Smart Strike card or whatever was probably your first glimpse at
Yeah.
kind of some AI.
Yep.
What they're, I guess, what's
Jordan Lee won off this rock pile.
Johnny Schultz with his like deep
Oh, yeah.
dive app.
Yep.
Some of that stuff is starting to feel like a little bit of AI. So if this data can get compiled of all these seasonal patterns and lures and weather conditions, and somebody can start to pull that together, I think that could really.
Well, you're talking about a self-learning machine that can tap into everybody's live scope, like at the touch of a button. Like it can, like from the smart people I've listened to, like in your house, from your Wi-Fi router and all of your electronics, it can sense where you are in the house. Like,
yeah, and an AI could probably read better your front-facing sonar to tell you whether that's a catfish or a drum or a bass, and whether it's 13 inches or 4 pounds or.
yeah, we're like 2004 Napster guys looking at like Twitter or something really big now that wasn't around then. Like this is really diving into a new dimension of the future. But I'll be curious, like if we were to listen to this back 8 years from now, if we'd be even accurate that like AI is translating live scope data and like from the past and from like literally based on people graphing around the world, AI understanding seasonal movements of bass to know, like, based on the weather and the day, it's going to be able to have enough data with live scope to probably be able to put together a better analytics pattern than any human being could ever put together. And this is reaching pretty far here for, the times we're in right now in 2024. But we'll see you in 10 years. Let's see how accurate that was.
And I think the thing that would probably unlock that the fastest, and which I think there's definitely been some talk about, is like, why do we need, whether you're a Lowrance hummingbird, right? Why do we need these expensive console units, and why can't we use tablets and smartphones to run these as engines, right? So if we get to the point where we're hooking up, like manufacturers' hardware to, generic Apple or Android type tablets and screens, this would link with the AI, and that would accelerate that curve.
It's definitely possible,
right?
Man.
So that's what is probably the key to unlocking that.
NBT and whether or not how heavily involved they are with big tech.
But I think NBT is just a monitor, right? At this point,
well,
I guess I don't know enough about it, but
I mean, from the sounds of it, like we aren't even being told the capabilities of this stuff. Like we're getting, like with ChatGPT and stuff, we're getting like the wheelchair version, and we only have one arm.
Right.
Like that's the version of AI we're getting versus what.
Right.
What
but I'm saying
have.
like I think the NBT monitor is basically a dumb TV with an HDMI cable in it.
Right.
It? Like there's no.
The guys are telling me they could tap into a TV, anything with the receiving.
But there's not
signal.
an Android phone inside the NBT, as far as I know. Right.
Not yet.
Yeah. But if that can,
coming.
if you can start linking, phones processing capabilities with your units, that's when the potential for the AI to really go. And then I
didn't think about that.
Then I think the argument, though, that is this really fishing anymore, probably really comes into question if it gets to be that good, where you can just be like, it just starts glowing on the map, and can start like.
You're gonna see Block It with like a picket sign at the White House door. And when that shit goes down,
and then he'll have 1 million subscribers overnight.
Yeah, no, he might storm the Capitol if that goes down.
He might be leading.
Yeah,
with like 5,500C Abu Garcias and 8-foot flipping sticks, rushing the Capitol.
They're throwing green boxes through the Capitol doors
with $10 hand-tied jigs,
breaking windows with green boxes and Vexlars,
bottom line flashers.
Dude, I did play with the paper graph. Those things are cool. Like, so wild. Like, literally, it's like typewriter shit.
My dad had one, and then I don't know if you know Kenny Millender, my dad's cousin. He was big on the paper graphs back in the day. I never really got to use one. We used a little bit walleye fishing, but they were interesting. I mean, they had really good detail. I mean, they were better than They were better than the LCDs of that time. Now they wouldn't really keep up with like today's 2D, but back then, over 2D, it was pretty impressive. But talk about things that were inefficient, like changing paper, replay. I mean, like, can you imagine like all for those of you who have like home printers and you're fighting with ink refills and like placing the paper? Can you imagine doing that during a bass tournament?
25-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah,
idling down.
I don't think they would have. I don't remember how waterproof they were, but I can't imagine like spearing waves on like Erie or something like that would be good for a paper graph.
I can't remember how that.
Do you trailer your big outboard? Then you need the MyWedge motor support. MyWedge keeps even the heaviest motors safe and secure on the trailer. And talk about easy. Up with the motor, on with the MyWedge, back down, ready to roll. And MyWedge is built to last. It won't rot, it won't split, it won't fail. Guaranteed. Pop on MyWedge centering clips for lateral stability and you're good to go. MyWedge, security in a snap. To order yours, go to mywedge.com.
Are you ready to reel in your next home purchase or refinance? Supreme Lending's Dream Team can help guide you through the entire mortgage process, from pre-qualification to closing. They have a wide variety of home loan programs in their tackle box, including down payment assistance and first-time homebuyer options. Just ask me. I trusted Aaron Dagas, a bass fisherman just like you and me, and Supreme Lending's Dream Team to help finance my first home. Contact Aaron Dagas and the Dream Team today by scanning the QR code or giving them a call at 763-326-0677. That's 763-326-0677. Did I catch a 7 in there? Or visit their website, aarondages.supremelending.com. That's AARONDAEGES.supremelending.com.
Paper felt, and it was last fall when I held one and touched one. My buddy brought it up to Battle Lake, but I was going to ask you something.
Maybe those are like the hidden sea scrolls, like the old paper. Like they're still around, right? Like what?
Yeah, like the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, but they're like the hidden paper scrolls of like Minnetonka or Gunnersville.
Ted Capra's hit that time he spent a month idling all of Lake Minnetonka. It'd probably take you, like with an old paper graph, Teddy probably had a full scroll.
Yeah.
Like of Lake Minnetonka on paper graph. I bet he probably could fill like a garage like side if you were to stack it all like correctly. Like I went this way, then this way.
But there was no GPS connected to it, which is the
right.
But
he probably had the cone angle and all that down.
Do you think like somewhere there's like a box of like Ted Capra or Aaron Martin or like Rick Clunn paper scrolls that they could be autographed and sold on eBay or like going to the Smithsonian or
Dude, you're onto something. You are onto something. I mean, this is. It depends, I guess, if
maybe
the
like
bass gods want to erase history or keep it around.
Hank Parker, some paper scrolls. That'd be a fun one. I don't know how much graphing Hank Parker did. He might have just been graphing with a 3/4 ounce classic spinner.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Nope. There's a little bit vibration to that graph on his. He's a cool dude.
Maybe like a Paul Elias. He might have some good paper scrolls.
Oh, the Book of Elias.
Mm-hmm.
I think that needs to be like a thing, dude. That needs to be like a thing. That and like I feel like those guys, they need to keep like boxes of signature like baits that they won shit on, and like sell them 40 years from now.
I got a signature bait in here. I'll show you later.
Oh, you do now, do you? But I was going to ask you, with your filming, we got forward-facing sonar, hot topic. I guess, are you figuring out a way to overlay your screen for some of your content, or is that something that you're looking at doing? Because to me, the guy who's able to do that and pull that off could probably do pretty well nowadays.
Yeah, I actually had a pretty good video where I talked about like the calibration of how you calibrate your live scope compass.
Oh,
It's got a lot of views. Where I actually took the time to set up the active captain, and then like
overlaid it.
well, and then I could in editing kind of do picture in picture. I've seen some of the ice guys do some really stuff where they remove the background and then like it's like below them.
I saw that, but I think Crappie Chronicles.
Maybe I've seen other people do it.
It's cool.
I don't watch much ice fishing.
Uncut angling,
Sorry.
I think.
Sorry, Sobe.
Yeah, same. It's kind of boring. I'd rather watch people scope.
I could see myself doing it in some fun videos, but I don't think at this point, right? The only way I guess I bought the 1022 Garmin because it has that one connects to the, at the time was the one that connected to the active target or the active captain.
Yep.
Do the screen recording. I can't see myself setting up screen recordings on my smartphone during a tournament. Like that seems like a
I can't hear you now. Can you hear me?
I can.
I can't hear you.
Oh boy. I think it was you kicking stuff, not me. Sorry, Cole.
Oh, we're good. We're good.
Sorry. It was Aaron's fault, not mine.
Yep. I pulled this cord a little bit and it turned my earphone volume down.
So
That's
it's just
all that
so we actually
happened.
did record it.
We
just Aaron
did.
couldn't hear me.
Yes.
All right.
I couldn't hear him. You guys
Timestamp.
could. Yeah, we'll keep it. Fuck 'em.
All right. Yeah, so I was saying I got the 1022, but I can't see myself doing screen recordings in a tournament. Like that seems like a level of like irritation and obnoxiousness of time delay that I'm not going to do. But like if I wanted to like set up and deliberately make a video, you know, just out fun fishing, I have plans to play around. I also have some plans to do some live on the water stuff.
That's cool.
I've got some ideas in my head on how to possibly do that. I did some last year that were pretty cool. A couple of tests. Like I took my buddy out frog fishing, and we both wore earbuds, and I had my smartphone streaming towards me, had his smartphone in the same boat, and then I had one of my community people that was a volunteer to like admin it from like their home computer. So they were reading the questions of the viewers while we were in a 1-to-1 frog battle, and we had our earbuds in so he could relay the questions to us, and then we could fish.
See, that's
and not
cool.
have to like look at a screen.
That's kind of like Zona. Yeah. That's sick.
Yeah, so it was almost like, yeah, if you think back to like the Zona KVD where Ronnie Moore is on the bank type thing, but instead of Ronnie Moore, we've got, you know, Brian or Brendan in Florida or at their home computer reading the questions.
That's sick.
So I also have an idea how I could do it myself with maybe a tablet and then having two camera angles on me.
Yep.
I mean, obviously,
Yep.
I don't think that would work in a tournament. Too much, right?
Yeah.
There's a gray area there with reading people's questions and raising suspicious. Not that I would take
sure.
it, but I just don't want to give that level of. Anyways,
Opens
but
up
I think like
questions
going
and
out
all
fun
that.
fishing, things like that, doing more lives. The signal thing is tricky. Like it's hard to get a good enough signal on the water. So I might have to look into like signal boosters and things like that. So, but that is something I want to venture into, to be able to like interact and fish. So basically do what I do in the studio, but take that on the water.
Yeah.
I think that could be cool.
Well, with Powerhouse lithium, like a
I
lot
got
of those things
I got all the power. Yeah.
So I do want to dig into that a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because I think I'm making the switch this year.
You won't be pissed.
Yeah. So tell me about making that switch from, you know, your standard batteries to Powerhouse. What are some like awesome differences
Mm-hmm.
you noticed? Did you run into any hurdles that you think people should know about? Like the wiring aspect, I think can be a little intimidating for some people and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, like for me, I'm not the smartest feller. So you know, the guys at Intune Marine definitely we make a nice complementary team
Mm-hmm.
that way. But yeah, I guess how's that been?
Yeah, I definitely walked before I crawled. I didn't just go all in. I'm very much, I don't know for whatever people think, but I'm kind of careful about who I work with, and I want to really like the stuff and use the stuff before I'm going to talk about it. So I started with a 16 volt to run the electronics. Figured like I'm behind the curve already with live scope and 360. I could use all the advantages I get to make sure my voltage stays up and I have the cleanest picture as possible. So when the first year I got, or towards the end of the year, the second year I had the Camus, which is 2023. Earlier in that year, I put the 16 volt in to run all the electronics and isolate them. So two things: it isolates them away from my starting, my live wells, my lights, and everything else in the boat, which I think is important regardless of what kind of battery you're going to choose.
It's clean power.
So you're
going
getting
to
clean
that
power.
battery. Yep. Big deal.
And then the 16 volt, really, in my opinion, I think some people say I'm not good enough with live scope to be able to tell you this, whether I can see a 36-ounce jig at 100 feet better with 16 volt than 12 volt or not. But anyways, but it prevents voltage drop. I think anybody that tells you that if you're running AGM and you start the day at 13.2 and at the end of the day you're at 11.5, your picture is not as good.
No, my picture would get worse every day towards the end of the day when that voltage would drop. So the people who are because there's a big misconception, 16 volts, that's not going to work. It's supposed to be 12. What the heck's going on with that? And what I've learned is there is something to, it's a matter of holding that graph at a certain voltage and keeping your picture as crisp and as clean and as good as it can possibly be. And the runtime on those things is pretty insane.
Yeah, they're actually more efficient. They last longer. So I got that. Was impressed. I had the run and gun on that, right? So adding a 16 volt battery to my system normally would complicate things from a charging situation. Like a lot of other brands, you would have to add a 16 volt charger.
Yep, big pain in the butt.
Big
with
pain in
most
the butt.
brands.
So then another separate plug-in at night.
Yep.
Back to the whole when you get done fishing 12 hours and you're trying to make dinner at a campsite or a hotel, and you're
popping fuses with the first plug.
If you're at a hotel, you're already popping. Yeah, right. So the running gun basically just would overflow from my my starting battery, which was an AGM at the time, into this. That basically converts that power. Once that's topped off, it overflows, and it also does it when the boat's running. So
it taps into that alternator.
Right.
So you have a charging system on the water, just like with your cranking battery.
Yep, and off the water. So it's a plenty big battery to run on its own, but then it's getting topped off during the day, and then it's charging through at night. And then you're only adding a box that's a little bit bigger than your smartphone. It's this big. It weighs 2 pounds. Versus I don't know if you ever taken out a Minn Kota charger. They're heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're hefty.
Yeah. They are.
Yeah.
They are. And I remember selling boats, people would ask, well, I want this separate lithium battery to run my graphs, and this is pre-Powerhouse, right? And I'd have to talk them out of it because, listen, it's good in theory, but you're asking for a whole new step of things you need to do to manage that situation. You're creating more work, not less, for a better picture. So we'd have to Band-Aid that.
Right. People are running drill batteries in their rod locker and all kinds of weird things.
Come on.
Who wants to do that?
But that Powerhouse comes out, and now that eliminates all that with the run and gun feature in and of itself. So I think one thing unique about Powerhouse is you've got a lot of lithium brands out there that are hopping on that lithium hype train, but they're really not pushing the envelope as far as making that technology better, making the products better, and understanding how the anglers need to use the products and creating solutions to fill those voids. Like the run and gun, to me, is probably one of the most unique things they carry that really just a no-brainer. If you're scoping and you're running that kind of system and you're fishing tournaments, it's really, you'd be dumb not to be looking into that system, in my opinion. I'm looking hard.
Yeah, and then also right away, they have a three-way. I mean, it's not the Perco switch. They have a three-way Perco switch. It's not theirs, but they offer that as part of their kit so that you can switch. So if I ever did run out of juice on the 16-volt somehow with the run and gun, or it just, things go wrong sometimes, whatever.
Sure.
You could just flip it to the 12 volt and run it off the AGM. So there was the redundancy levels of from a power situation on my graphs. I was never worried about whether I'd ever have power for all my electronics.
Yeah, you're not stuck in this garage. You've got escape channels. You've got safe.
Right.
You've got safety
backups
nets.
to my backups.
Yep. Which is a big deal because, and I've noticed that those guys really listen to anglers. They really, that's their focus, is how are these people using this product? And that's, I think, unique in the lithium market from what I've seen. Everybody else that I've talked to, that just, these batteries run time's way better and they're way lighter.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the chargers start on fire. You're going to need an extra extension cord and 2 extra splitters. And this charger's kind of heavy. You got to lug it around. So, now you got to worry about your transom saver, your other charger. You got 3 chargers for these things now. When you could just
so my original system, I just ran off the 4-bank that came with my Camus. So then the running gun basically just looped that in. And then this year I made the full conversion to go to 236 volt 40 amps for my trolling motor. So I had 80 amps of 36, but then by going with 236s, you have redundancy in case one battery ever, right? I mean, never had a problem with any of my batteries, but if I did, or one didn't charge, I'd still have a whole nother battery, right? So that gives you redundancy on the 36 side, plus added a running gun for the 36 volt. And then I did go to the lithium starting battery, which I think in the grand scheme of things is probably the least, like if I'm going to prioritize them, I'd probably go, I think you could argue, depending on what kind of fisherman you are,
Right.
lithium for your trolling motor or lithium for your graphs.
River guide, maybe trolling motor, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you like to burn it down looking for sight fish, yeah, go. I mean, because I don't know if you think I've noticed this, but like I do feel like trolling motors run hotter on lithium, and 100 with lithium is hotter than 100 with an AGM.
I haven't run
And 100
enough
and
to
100
know.
doesn't. I mean, the 100 at the end of the day is the same as the start of the day with the lithium.
That's what I've heard, is that you don't get that.
Right.
That
There's no right. You're
delay.
13.3 all day.
holds that voltage, baby.
Right. Whereas like AGM lead, right, you're 13.3, and if your battery gets older, 13.2, 13.1, 12.9 at the start of the day,
Right.
And then at the end of the day, they're like 11, right? Like they just, I mean, you've
I'll
definitely
turn
felt
it
that.
off just to try to like bring
Right.
it back up a little bit. I've
Yeah.
done that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm making the switch this year. But have you noticed a difference in, as you reduce the weight in the back of your boat, did you notice a difference in how your boat performs? Because that is a point of discussion that I guess I've noticed on the sales side is like, hey, like you take that, like some boats are designed to have some weight back
Sure.
there, and a lot of boats perform better with the more weight you have in the back. So a lot of the guys that had issues, we put weight back there and it's fixed things, I guess, if there's issues. So that's something to just at least be cautious of. But did you notice any of that?
I mean, whole shot definitely gets better.
For sure.
That definitely doesn't hurt. And I guess I've always been kind of a guy that runs a 4-blade prop.
Yep.
Like I like good performance, but I'm not worried about whether I'm getting like 73.2 versus like 71 sometimes.
Yep.
I'd rather have the mid range, the out of the hole, the keeping the bow up in waves, and I'll give up a mile or two at the top. So I guess I've been
with
running
you.
a 4-blade. I haven't, there was a lot of moving parts through my evolution of like adding Raptors, going to like, right, like
right.
so there was a lot of like doot.
Raptors
So I
add
can't
weight.
say that I've got like a straight linear path to answer that because I
Sure.
just kind of like I built the boat over the last couple of years
Yep.
to get it to where I want it. So I can't give you a direct answer. It still runs pretty good.
It seems like on a Phoenix, it's Phoenix is where the lithiums, it seemed to like more weight in the back, and it's funny, the whole shot improves when you take the weight out of the back, right? Boat's a balance point. It's and every boat's got a little bit different balance point as far as how they're designed
And tackle
weighted.
load, right? Like, do you put your football jigs in the back compartment or the front compartment, or like, I don't
Are we
know.
talking about John Figge flipping like a lot of heavy jigs where he's got, that kind of weight, or Carolina rig guy with a pile of brass in the boat or something? Some guys run light. If you look at my walls, I typically run a little heavy.
Yeah. So some of that you can do with tackle distribution too. You can kind of remove some of that stuff.
Well, that's what we would say. Like, first thing you do if you're noticing a difference with weight is grab your heaviest jig boxes and your heaviest boxes and put them in the back and, run it again and see if it makes a difference.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Is your tournament partner Aaron, who is like 130 pounds soaking wet, or is he a full-grown man? I mean,
Right.
those are all things to consider.
For sure. For sure. I couldn't believe the turnout yesterday at Intune.
It was
man,
pretty good.
For that open
it was,
house.
It was hopping.
Yeah. Yeah. Election year and all. It was hopping there, man. Those guys run a good ship.
Yeah, it was cool to see. What's his name from Vexus? Keith
Daffron?
Yeah, never. I
Leg-
got George introduced me. Got to say hi to him. Never. I mean, clearly a legend in the boat building space. It was nice to be able to shake his hand. Don't really know him from Adam, but it was cool to see him there.
He's a legend, and a lot of people, I would say he's kind of an in the shadows legend compared to your Brandon Polnick or something like that. But I mean, I don't know if you got to hear him tell any stories, but he's one of the best storytellers known to man. And the story behind that company and how
Right.
that all went down, he's kept it extremely professional when he doesn't necessarily need to, but it's a freaking. It's a weird world, that boat world, and
Yeah.
it's those guys are cut from a unique cloth, and the history behind like Ranger boats and that whole evolution into Vexus is one of the cooler stories I've ever heard, just based on the size of the town that they're built in.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you leave a company and you build a factory 1.5 miles away, and that town only has like 2,000 people in it, and you put air conditioning in that factory, like, that's a statement. People don't understand what kind of statement that is. That was a big deal.
Yeah, I'm sure the Earl Bent stories are pretty similar as well in the Tennessee region.
Yep. And I think it's interesting. You know, the boat world's weird, and I don't think people understand, I guess, how that all works, and being a dealer for that, and you know, just how tough a business it is. It's not a walk in the park business by any means, and there's a lot of work that goes into getting boats built and to the customer, and they cost a lot of money. So if you don't sell them, they can bleed you dry.
I remember thinking that yesterday, like just coming in and out of the Intune yesterday, and like all the service people that were there, and you know, the tractors and the equipment and the buildings and everything that makes that place, you know, it seems on the surface, but like there's a lot that goes into that place.
Yeah, you start to count the dollars, and it's an animal. It's a lot to manage. You've got a lot of moving parts, and it's the big thing people don't understand up here in Minnesota with the marine world is how seasonal it is, and how much more weight that puts on staff, because you have to get 6 months of work done in 2 months essentially, and you never know when that's going to happen. If the ice melts May 1st, Memorial, like your pontooners, they all want their boat by Memorial Day. That's Christmas. If you don't have the presents under the tree by then, you know Santa failed this year, right? So you don't know if you're going to have 3 weeks to get all them presents ready or 2 months. This year it's
probably
looking like you know, the boys are going to have a little bit more elbow room than they're used to. So hopefully they can get ahead of things. But didn't mean to hop on that soapbox real quick. But it's the marine world is respect your marine dealers, because they got a tough job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I can't look at that box and not ask about it any longer, because this is something we haven't really delved into on the podcast, and I've become kind of a nerd when it comes to crankbaits, and I guess I've got some boxes, but I'd love to talk a little balsa wood, you know.
How many boxes you got over there? Those aren't all balsas, are they?
This one's all that one's balsa. This one's all balsa. But this is my Bagley box. But it's like there's so many different categories when it comes to crankbaits.
You got a DT6 is a balsa.
Oh yeah,
I mean, a Shad Rat is a balsa. Somewhere. Like, right. I mean,
there's a lot of balsa, and there's a lot of not balsa, and to balsa or not to balsa. The only thing that you don't see a lot in balsa is rattles, right?
There's some
rattle and balsa, a
little bit, not very often. There's some people crafting some rattling balsa, but they're pretty secretive about that kind of stuff. Well,
there's not a lot of people like hand making crankbaits up. Like that's not like as
like the old the Bagleys originally, right? The Sissons, those a lot of those Tennessee crankbaits. A lot of those were hand carved early on, and then they got into replicating machines and things like that over the years. And now I think like Bagley's does some things where they're like pressing balsa together, right? They got some new technologies.
Yep.
But yeah, you don't see a lot of the hand carve, which most of this box is hand carved balsa.
See, that's cool. I got a few of that, and I found some magic hand carved ones. I guess I'm curious, like, because this is a territory that, once again, a lot of people don't really touch this subject in Minnesota, and it's kind of like
there's one good reason for that.
Really?
It's called the Northern Pike.
Yeah. And we're talking $21 balsa baits, that snack size balsa baits.
I wish most of these were only $21.
Oh shit!
So when somebody hand carves them, there's a lot of love and TLC that goes into these, and then most of these are custom painted as well. So a lot of these are. So this. You probably won't see this,
nope,
but
you're good.
Tacklecraft is the guy that paints them, and then a guy named Marty Burns, Big M Crankbaits. He pretty much only carves for like one or two people. So I have this sick addiction where I pay a monthly Patreon fee just so I can get notified when I can get the drops on these. and then pay a pretty penny for these.
I see. So
Now, not all of them are. So like this, I mean, we got a couple. We'll work up to it, but like this is an older B1,
Yep.
like I don't know, probably a 30, 40-year-old crankbait. Got a couple black labels here.
Yep.
There are a couple of early run
This is the
bag
OGB one?
Like these are Bagleys. Here's a Sunny B. Shout out. There's a new style.
Yeah.
But these here's are the newbie ones, but with TK's sauce on it. So that's not a factory.
So custom painted
Northland Bagley.
B1s.
Yeah, he bought a bunch of those like 50% off when Northland was running their sale, and then he put kind of that fresh Coleman craw on there.
So talk to me about the B1 because I'll be honest with you, I've had some success with it.
That doesn't go there. What are you
Oh,
doing?
sorry. Yep, not my box.
So we're, I guess the other, I did say, before I forget about this, I also have a couple WECs. See what that says on the side of that WEC?
Kevin.
Short.
That's what I thought it said. I just wanted to make sure. This looks similar to the one he won that tournament on.
Yeah,
He won, he's just...
that Pickwick tournament where he was like sliding them off the stumps and
Yeah.
I mean, I won this in a fantasy fishing game back in the day where there was like an entry fee.
Did he throw this one?
I don't think so. I think that was a new bait, but he signed it as part of one of those. So I got those two, a 1 and a 2, and then he signed one of them.
Sure. Because what? This is a Bagley?
No, it's a WC, the Zoom WC.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Ed
that's
Chambers.
They don't... This is like a famous
Right.
crankbait. This is that worm and crank or Zoom worm? Yeah. Zoom worm and crank. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. Ed Chambers, right? Yeah. So WEC is... I forget what the W is, but EC is the Ed Chambers. He designed. So the guy that invented or ran Zoom all those years had these wood crankbaits.
Sure.
And they're pretty hard. They're getting harder and harder to find. They've gotten pretty expensive over the years. But
Well, I'm curious, like, when you throw that B1, because I've grown really fond of, like, the Pro Sunny B and the Sunny B. Like, those are my two favorite Bagley crankbaits. But I catch them on a B1, and I've caught them on a B2. But I guess, like, when are you picking that up? What is that bait really? What are the conditions where that bait's super effective for you?
I started grabbing these when I fished some of those. When I started two of those national championships, I fished around the Ouachita River, which was like Cypress, and that's where I started getting into some of these shallow cranks. That's where I got like these Zooms and a few of these other Bagleys back in the day. But a lot of these are recent additions to the arsenal to these bait drops. A lot of these have been accumulated in the last year. So Marty Burns handcrafts these, and then they get sick little paint jobs on them. So a lot of them I've just a few months, but he's carved a lot of different styles. But they're super unique. And there's one called a root here, this one, and he's got different names for them.
Sure.
But I got on a pretty good bite last fall with the neighbor of this one, and then a pike ate it.
So that one's got like a...
Dropped me to my knees when I lost a $40 crankbait to a pike.
Oh, I bet. But
But
one's
here's
got
the
like
thing: it's not that it's just $40. I can't go to Omnia or Waypoint or anywhere else and just get another one. So like a Megabass is expensive. You hate losing a $25, $30 jerkbait, but you can just go to your favorite retailer and typically get another one.
Yep.
There's a guy in Arkansas that hand carved this, and another guy in Alabama that hand painted it. And they only, he only made like 30 of them at a time.
Right.
That's the nutty part of it.
What's up with that quarter shaped bill?
I don't know. He's like a mad scientist of like crankbaits, and he tinkers with body shapes and different bill shapes to get them to run to do a thing.
Yep.
And
what does that thing do that like your standard square bill wouldn't? Like why?
Yeah, I can't.
That's my question.
I'm probably not as in tune, but like this is.
You're fine.
Yeah, there are other guys who could probably describe that better. I mean, this is kind of like a 4 to 6 footer.
Yep. Is the vibration kind of
it's probably got a pretty good thump to it. I mean, I actually had the guy that painted this. He kind of took a dude's trip up here, and we went out to Ortonville, and we played around, and we caught largemouth, we caught smallmouth, we caught big walleyes on this. It was pretty cool.
And see, I guess for me,
And that's the SB1.
I found
That one's really like, it is believed that the Jackal bling was inspired by that bait.
I bet this one's better. I'm not a big fan of the bling.
I
You
don't know
like the bling?
I haven't thrown it much because I've got these, but
Yeah.
I've definitely done well on the river on that little flat side there.
I was gonna say I've grown like if I'm throwing balsa, the ones I've had really good luck with are this more flat side style. Like Chickamauga, I was telling you that I had a bait that I just messed them up on, and then I lost it, and I couldn't get bit again. I could catch some on a Sunny B, though.
This one's kind of unique. This one's called the Rat Brain.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's a beautiful paint job on
I think
this
that's
one.
the Little Mac.
Looks
the
like
Mac.
a little bluegill.
I don't know. Lots of fun stuff. I also
feel
got,
like they'd eat
got a
this
couple
on
method
Tonka.
cracks, or the method cranks, the old Reaction Innovations ones.
Okay. What was the deal with these?
They were kind of unique. I mean, they came out for a while. I think they're 2 parts. Like I think they're like cedar and balsa together. But the trick
Okay.
with those were, they were like 50. I mean, back when those came out in like, I don't know, mid 2000s, they were like $16 crankbaits back then, which was like
Unheard of.
right, like, and like only 1 out of like 5 or 10 would run right.
That's like...
Yeah, they're finicky
That's
little
maddening.
buggers. So they went away.
Sure. Are you pretty good at tuning cranks, and is that something you mess with a lot?
I mean, you got to tune them a little bit.
Right.
Some of the older ones, you got to be careful. Like you know, they don't take to a lot of over tuning. You can mess them up, right?
I believe
These are
that.
super.
Supreme Lurico introduces a revolution in bass fishing with our triumphant trio, the Supreme Slug, Lil Slug, and Slaw. Leading the charge is the Supreme Slug, a legend revived after 2 decades. Its unique shape and built-in hook slot redefine tactical brilliance on the water, giving you an edge like never before. But the saga continues with the Lil Slug, a miniature powerhouse that mirrors the majesty of the Supreme Slug. Don't let its size fool you. It packs the punch needed to lure in those elusive bass. And for the ultimate bass feast, there's the Slaw, a craw representation with the same irresistible characteristics as the Supreme Slug. It's bass seduction at its finest, designed to trigger predatory instincts. Exclusively crafted for bass enthusiasts, Supreme Lurico brings you a trio that's not just baits, they're bass magnets. Supreme Lurico, cast in gold, reel in glory.
Attention all Bassstronauts. This podcast is supported by the Bass Galaxy's title sponsor, Waypoint Angler Supply, the Midwest's new landing pad for hardcore anglers just like you and me. If you're looking for the sneaky goods you can't find anywhere else, look no further. Waypoint Angler Supply has the largest offering of JDM tackle in the Midwest, and they are right here in Minnesota on Lake Minnetonka. This is truly a place every bass fisherman in Minnesota needs to visit because we finally have a tackle shop in the state that's as dreamy as the ones you find down south. And the staff at Waypoint Angler Supply understands the various needs of us anglers, which is why you'll find the selection there so enticing. Ross and the folks at Waypoint Angler Supply are passionate about carrying the right stuff, providing an authentic customer experience, and they listen to the anglers. And it doesn't end at JDM baits. They stock all the top U.S. brands, as well as local Minnesota brands like Veselka Fishing and Customs, Arsenal Fishing, Bait Lab Custom Swim Baits, All Terrain Tackle, Bagley Northland, Outcast Tackle, and more. So stop into their store on Lake Minnetonka or visit their website, waypointanglersupply.com. That's waypointanglersupply.com. Use the code GALAXY2024 to save 20% on your next order at Waypoint.
Super finicky.
Beautiful.
But
I don't have any like these. These look like a medium diver, or like
yeah, that's one of
6-foot
his.
diver.
Yeah,
This
I've
this
played
looks
around
like
with that a little bit.
catcher on, like, I think of one place I'd throw that out.
yeah.
But
But it makes you nervous
totally.
around here.
I had some luck. Where is it?
How about that spicy little anatomically correct?
I know
Crank-
exactly where I want to
crawdad
throw
one.
that. Who makes that one?
It's all the same. But here, this is probably my favorite paint job right here. On that little.
That is a nice. That's like a matte finish. That's beautiful.
Or that little juvenile gill there.
It's gorgeous.
Do you see any bluegills around your docks out here that look like that?
Probably all of them. Those are beautiful.
Yeah.
This is the first bait that got me on
I got
balsa.
You got any in your? Let's check his sleeves quick to make sure they're all.
Nope, I'm
accounted
an
for.
honest man.
Gotta watch this.
I can resist most temptation. But that's the first balsa bait I ever really got.
Nice.
into. I remember I was fishing Tonka and I got under a bridge during a rainstorm and I messed up like 6 smallies on 6 casts and random ass channel on Tonka on that thing. So I bought a couple more.
Which one's this one?
That's a PH. I
Okay.
forget.
Yep.
I
What
forget
model
the
it is. They've
exact
got a few,
model.
yeah,
There's
sure.
so dang many, but that's that money color. I don't know.
Yeah.
Foil bait. Yeah, you get them custom balsas. They'll get like the foil in there. Get you the foils.
It's an addiction, folks. Be careful.
Oh, crank. Yeah. I'll probably get some camera footage of your box just so people can see what we're talking about. But I'm not gonna get any footage of this. This is my big stone crank.
We don't put it right back here.
Yep, that's my big stone crank.
Interesting. It's like a skunk color.
I mean, it's just black.
Yeah, but that's not balsa.
Nope, that's plastic bait. And this was later in the season. Like, it was still warm enough where I think it was just, I probably could have painted a balsa bait
I
that
bought some
color.
deeper versions of these for my trip to St. Clair this summer.
That color?
No.
That crankbait's a good crankbait. That,
I'm guessing Waypoint's got some of those.
yeah, those are
At
hard
least,
to get.
at least
They've
that
got
at least
some.
that brand, anyways.
They've got some. We won't mention it, but you look at that place, you'll probably find something. But no, honestly, I think for most crawfish up here, I don't understand like the red.
That's the
versus,
Sunny B, right?
Yep, that'd be
Yep.
the regular Sunny B. And then they make that Pro Sunny B, so it's kind of like
I've got one of the pros. I haven't thrown it much, but I got one in the box.
if you get the right Pro, frick. I mean, you get the right one of these and you can crank it down 6-7 feet with the Pro. I mean, this is your Range Rover and that's your, Finesse Rover. If you're looking for a 1-2 punch,
This is almost a little bit of Shad Rap vibes.
It's
not
kind
the
of
same,
half
but,
Shad
yeah.
Rap, half flat side
Yeah.
kind of deal.
Yep.
But it casts really good. That's what I like about it is like you can throw that on a bait caster and have really good flight with it no matter what the wind is versus like a Shad Rap you gotta
You can throw this on a bait caster. You don't need spinning around.
correct. Is that what I say?
No, I mean just that it casts well. Sounds like
Yep.
AK Shad Rap almost is like the smaller Shad Raps are almost impossible to throw on a bait caster.
Exactly. So if you're looking to mimic a more subtle version of probably the actual crawfish that a lot of fish eat, I mean that's really good at it.
Trust me, I was listening when Noah was talking about this last time he was on.
Noah is a magician with these baits compared to me, and I just aspire to be as good at, cranking as he is. But
I should probably when we're
he made
like,
me a
I should
believer.
compare which one of these looks the most like the Sunny B. There's probably some in here that
that's my vermilion twist on it.
like this. We're probably doing similar things with those two.
Honestly, yeah, yeah. Well, Noah smoked my ass with one behind me.
Honestly, the SB1 is not terribly different than the Sunny B.
I
as far
really
as,
like that. That SB1
yeah.
was my most favoriteest crank in that whole box. Yeah. But that's my vermilion twist on that Pro Sunny B.
Cool.
Definitely something to that.
Did you, when you say twist, you add a little something? I see it there now. What's your favorite way to doctor hard baits?
My ex-girlfriend's nail polish so
So
far,
little
but
Sally Hansen.
yeah, I'm by no means a professional hard bait guy. I just really enjoy catch 'em on it, and I think I've learned some things, but it seems like there's only been a few times where I've had to doctor them where I feel like it makes a difference. How about you?
Yet, getting into this more. I'm definitely like a soft plastic jig color tinkerer. I haven't done a lot, but I've definitely thrown some like red on throats or some orange on some baits here and there with like a spike it or a marker.
It's more putting a target on a lure, right? Or
Yeah.
just putting a dot or putting a little more orange on something.
I know we were going to talk about topwaters eventually, but shallow cranks on topwaters. I'm a big fan of red hooks on the front.
I've heard about that, and I guess why do you feel they can see that and it hones them in?
I think it gives them. It's similar to the target for me. I don't think it. I mean, maybe it could be in some instances the bleeding thing, but I think it's more about giving them the target. I'd rather them hitting the front hook of my topwater than somewhere else on the bait. And I've seen enough small fish that absolutely impale themselves on the red hook to make me believe that gets in it. I don't catch a lot of fish on the rear hook of my topwaters. And I think most of the
Really?
ones I do, they started in the middle bait, and then as they were trying to shake free, they still had the tail, hook in. So
Sure.
I think anything over 5-6 feet, it's irrelevant from a red hook standpoint. But I think on a shallow, like a -1, maybe up to top water, up to maybe a DT6, there could be an argument for a red hook at times.
I'm curious when you like non-traditional ways you can throw a crankbait up in Minnesota, because it seems like it's not the easiest place to just go throw a crankbait.
Right.
But there's people who've found magic with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one example would be like a Mark Raveling with the magwort.
Magnum.
Yep. Magnum wort. Magnums.
It's the magnums.
The other example would be, so you got that grass ripping scenario.
Mm-hmm.
The other aspect would be, target shooting shallow, throwing it, maybe a flat side around docks.
Yeah.
Like that would be a less traditional, but there's some magic to those things,
Yeah,
I guess.
a 1- can play. I remember some days back in the day, gull, a 1- was rectum pretty good. A gull over
Shallow?
the top of grass. I mean, like
sure.
mid-depth, like
I got a little
almost
crank
this-
on gull. I
almost the
like.
same place you'd throw a spinnerbait or a swim jig. You could throw a 1- when the grass is right. It's tricky in Minnesota. Is like there's windows and there's baits that fit applications because the grass is always changing and it's
Right.
topping out and not topping out and dropping. And I mean, yeah, there's the deep cranking. If you can get out and find clean rocks, that happens. The DT6 for me is a really good crankbait, especially in like that Lahamadou, Whitefish, Gull, Pokegama region of the state. That's just like you can get out in like 14 feet of water, 45 it up onto the flat, and it comes off most of our grass edges. And DT6 comes great through grass.
Yep.
If people didn't know that, like I don't know
Yep.
what about it, but it
It
doesn't
does.
matter whether it's cabbage or milfoil or whatever. It comes through grass really well. And that gets a lot of bites. It's a good way if you don't love scanning and looking at electronics and stuff. If you just want to put your trolling motor on 8 and burn down with a DT6, if there's a pile of fish there, one's probably going to come up and poke its head at a DT6, and then you can
Right.
go back and soak a jigworm or something like that.
And like, what's interesting about that is I've played a lot around with like a DT6, and then it's weird how on one crankbait that dives the same depth and you're fishing grass with it, takes a stiff rod, it seems like, or a graphite rod, non-glass or composite. And then I've got another crankbait that it seems like I need a spongier rod to get it clean through the grass. And then like you talk to Mark Raveling with that magwort,
Wasn't he talking about like braid?
10-pound mono.
Okay.
And it had to be 10 pound, and it had to be a shorter rod to get the right rip, So it's like that would be the last thing you'd think with a magwort. You'd think you'd need to beef up, and instead they went down to like a 6 or a 6.6 and 10-pound mono because that narrower line I think helped that bigger bait, and that there was magic to that. And I found that there's two cranks I like to rip grass with. One's a DT6, the other I won't mention. And one I need to have on a really limber rod. And that DT6, I like it on a graphite, a little stiffer rod for the rip. So
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of like a ChatterBait where it's probably some opinion, probably some how you fish it.
Mechanics, line
For sure.
choice, hook set. Yeah, I think there's and a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not a big glass rod guy. I don't really like glass rods.
Aside from flat side and
Even
finesse
that, I mean,
certain crankbaits, I'm with you.
I mean, I guess I throw my on like a Dobbins crankbait rods, the Champion series, but not the glass ones.
Sure. To each
But,
their own, right?
But like, yeah, I mean, are you throwing it on 10-pound big game? Are you throwing it on 10-pound fluoro?
Right.
What's your mechanics? Like all those things. And I think there's so much of that. Like you got to figure out what works for you. As long as you're catching fish and you're keeping them pinned and you're getting the bites, that's all that matters. Don't let because like the way you crank, the way you snap, the way you set the hook, the way you do things, whether it's a crankbait, a jig, flipping a craw tube, is different than all my mechanics.
100%.
So a ring hook might work for me, a straight shank might work for you, braid might work for me, floral might work. Like, yeah,
Well, we're built different, we're shaped different, and like, you have to use your strengths to an advantage. I don't got a lot of thunder and lightning here, but I got a lot of length, got a lot of distance. So I understand that I'm not gonna be able to put the coals to them probably like Rich Lindgren's able to, but I've got this 6'2" wingspan
Yeah.
and this long, hard pull set, but that's different than like how certain people set the hook.
Yep.
But it works the best for me due to my lack of strength and my wingspan, you know?
Yeah. And there's hooking and landing fish. There's so many micro physics,
Oh, God.
equations that happen in that whole process.
For sure.
From the time that they eat the bait to you set the hook to you getting it to the boat, to say that any one hook, brand of rod, line, go on is best. You just got to figure out what works for you.
Totally. And it's an evolution for, I guess, any serious angler of trying to fine tune whatever it is, whatever little deal you figured out, trying to fine tune that and refine it. Like, oh, I found out this crankbait works, but I'm losing them. But then I changed to these Ichikawas, and you know, now I'm losing less.
And the
Or
next
I switched
person's
to
like,
this rod.
I bend out every Ichikawa I throw. Or,
Right,
I mean,
like,
whatever. I'm
yeah.
making it up. I'm
No,
not saying
like,
they do, but it's
totally,
like, oh yeah,
totally.
I lock my drag down and I use 30-pound braid. Those suck.
Right.
It's like, well, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But like,
For sure.
No, but if you are having issues, like, hey, I'm not hooking up on my, I'm losing 30% of my ChatterBait fish, or right, like then yeah, like, okay, what's your setup? And like, all right, like try this. Okay, maybe try a different action rod. Maybe try going to a mono instead
Right.
of a fluoro. Maybe try fluoro instead of braid. I mean, like there are things that you can slowly change in your arsenal, your equation, and see if that fixes it. But there is no
we're
right
talking
answer.
about golf and like
Yeah,
a driver now,
absolutely.
right? Like same thing. Same
Yeah,
thing.
same thing. Like I don't know,
You
whatever.
swing like a weird fucker, so you're probably going to want a little less flex in your club, and maybe a little less loft, because
Yeah.
it looks like a pitching wedge that slices. You know what I mean? Like same thing.
Yeah, I'm
Same
sure
thing.
not all baseball players use the same bats, and
Right.
different players like different skates and different leg pads for go. I mean, it's just like, right, it's a fit, it's a comfort. I mean, different shoes. I mean,
Yep.
some people love Converse, and other people think they're terrible and they don't fit. Whatever. Like,
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that I respect about you as an angler is I think you have shallow water abilities that I think are really good. Like you're really
that
good.
are becoming super irrelevant these days, is what he's trying to say.
Maybe. That's not what I
Another
was trying to
discussion.
say.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, Arnold Helgerson won
Yeah.
AOI for Champions Tour fishing shallow all year, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's
Sure.
irrelevant. I mean, if we're comparing it Elite Series stuff, but as
Yeah.
far as local shit
No,
goes,
I was joking mostly, but yeah.
hey, I want to give you credit for your strengths, because
Mm-hmm.
I think in the world of scoping, I think that might come around again.
Could be a breath of fresh air. So yeah, if you guys want to watch people catch fish not on scope, I have a whole lot of videos
This
on my
your
YouTube
guy.
channel. You
This
can
your
watch
guy.
me yank them on with jigs and frogs and things like that.
Absolutely. But picking apart shallow stuff, would you say you're more of a fast angler when you fish shallow, or do you slow? Like, there's guys who fish, they'll put 50 casts on a dock, and there's guys who'll throw maybe 2 casts on a
Yeah,
dock.
no,
you
I'm
know?
more the cover water, burn it down. Definitely not the person that pulls up, put the sticks down, and pick it apart. I'm gonna like 3, 4, 5, 6 casts while the boat's moving, high percentage spots.
Yep.
And I do like it sometimes in the pro-am or team tournaments. So you get the like, man, I mean, I'm like, my Cinco didn't hit the bottom when I was behind. like
Open
well,
your
that's-
bail.
Yeah, like.
Open your bail.
Yeah. I mean, there are times to slow down, and that's all about, right, adjusting and reading the water and what you got to do. But, like, if I can make them bite a jig, that'll be my first choice.
First choice.
Because it's super efficient,
Yep.
right? Not fixing trailers. I'm not, rigging my Texas rig. The hookups are really good on jigs. It gets a pretty good bite more times than not. I think nobody would deny that.
Right.
And if they're eating the jig, and if I'm catching on a good day, right? If I'm catching 90% of the fish or 80% of the fish off every dock, and I can cover 100 docks. But if you're throwing a Senko and you're catching 100% of the fish, but you're only fishing 30 docks, I like my chances.
Totally.
Right. So like that's
unless you're fishing really good docks.
right.
If there's
Well, yeah, there's
4 and
magic
5
docks.
pounders
Yeah.
on those, and to be honest with you, I feel like if that scenario presents itself, I have to almost bet on the opposite of you.
Sure.
Because of my abilities.
Mm-hmm.
I can't burn down docks as good as the guys who can burn the fuck down docks.
Yeah.
So I have to fish docks better and more methodically. So I have to basically fish less better docks is kind of
Mm-hmm.
how and typically I don't win those events, or I don't thrive, but I survive, and I've done well in those events, top 5 or top 10 or done okay. But it seems like I don't know. There's two sides to that coin, and I wish I was better and had more confidence to run a little bit more. And what blows my mind the most is guys who can like just keep throwing a moving bait fishing docks. Like that is something
like Lieferman throwing a ChatterBait around docks.
I can't get myself to keep going because I think I left meat on the table. You know what I mean? So I guess you to me seem like a guy who obviously likes to throw a jig on docks, but I've also seen watching your YouTube stuff and whatnot, you do more of a moving bait scenario
sometimes
on or around docks. I guess when do you feel confident like with something like that before versus you need to throw a jig? Like is it when they're biting or is it when they're not biting? You know what I mean? Because there's a reaction scenario to a moving bait, and to me, when they're less likely to bite, that's sometimes when that can be a triggering mechanism. But I've also seen firsthand personally where I have to slow down to get those bites instead of speed up.
I think the jig is a nice tool to explore that.
Sure.
Because a jig with the right trailer, a menace grub or a speed craw or something like that, you can fish it vertically and you can also swim it.
Sure.
So you can lay one out as you're coming up to a dock.
Yep.
Run it down the front. Then throw one under the juicy platform, throw one under the pontoon, and then as you're going by it, you can throw one down and then swim it.
Sure.
Right? So you can start to give the fish different things.
Yep. And then they
start to tell you things, and you can start to put pieces of the puzzle. Then you can flip it on a weed clump or a pad clump between the next dock, and then you can swim it by some weeds, right? So you can kind of what are the fish telling you?
That makes perfect sense, and I guess you're literally, and maybe I'm not swimming my. What I take from that is I love a jig on a dock, and what I get from that is I'm not swimming my jig enough to to test that theory. So I guess what trailer are you? Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other thing is sometimes when you're reeling in, you see a fish dart out at your jig. Well, they know it was sitting there looking at it.
Yep.
Right, and then you reel it in, all of a sudden it comes out and chases it. There's an indicator that you might want a moving bait. Now, is one
change your
fish
angle, throw a moving bait?
Right? One fish. So that means either you need to slow down and let it sit there,
right,
and shake it, or you need to speed up, or show them something, right? So that's an indicator. Or if you're getting, I guess the other thing would tell me if you're throwing it in there and they're sometimes you feel them hit it and they're not right. It's might be Cinco time now. It might be time to break out the Wacky rig, or something like that, or downsize.
Yep.
So the fish are going to give you clues.
For sure, and that makes sense. And I guess it's what I like is what I love about this podcast is delving into how people think about the game, and there's little nuggets to be had with everything. And it's for me, I learn something every day, and that's how I try to live life. And I guess swimming your jig back to the boat. There's different trailers to a jig, and I'm a big proponent of you can make a 1/2 ounce jig act like a 3/8 or a 3/4 just by changing your trailer. So I'm definitely in on that cue. But people have there's millions of jig trailers out there, and there's trailers that seem to do really well on a slow pull or a dead stick, and there's trailers that seem to require some speed or weight to make them work effectively.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking shallow fishing, docks, I'm normally going to start with a 3/8 ounce Bass Tech tungsten jig. Only a couple colors, like an Okeechobee craw, a black, brown, green pumpkin are almost all I throw. And then I lighten it or darken it with the trailer reduction, right? So instead of carrying 12 different jig truck colors, I maybe carry 3 or 4, and then have 4, 5, 6 maybe color choices. And then that's the nice thing is right, if you put on a Texas rig, the brush hog or the craw you put on is the color you put on.
Right.
Where the jig, you can dial up dirty water, day at time just by changing the trailer.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So, that makes sense.
But for me, 90% of the time, it's a speed craw or a menace grub.
Sure.
When I feel the jig bite's on, especially in the fall, I'll have that 3/8 with the standard offering, and then a lot of times I'll go to 1/2 ounce or a little heavier jig, and then maybe I'll put on a spicy beaver or something, a rage craw with a little more bulk and kick.
Yep.
But I don't get real crazy with especially shallow jig trailers. Now, maybe football jigs and casting jigs, maybe I'll get a little different, but for the most part, 90% of the time, it's a speed craw or a menace grub.
Yeah, I don't think we're so
sorry to
no,
keep it basic.
I love that. And I don't think
it works. They eat it.
Those are two great baits, and I guess I'm throwing pretty similar to that. You know, like I like that new missile, Chunky D. I think. Or
I
that
actually
craw.
did play around with the Chunky D.
Skip's really
that is
nice.
a good. They're kind of pricey.
They're durable though. I was
They will
impressed.
will hold up. Yeah, they're decent. I did experiment with the Chunky D, and it's fun to say Chunky D.
Chunky D.
So like
Yeah.
that one did in the last year or so did make it into the rotation a little bit.
Sure. And that Shape 108 craw is the other one.
Yeah,
that,
I've caught a few fish on that.
only the 3-inch one.
That 4-inch one is just
It's a little gaudy.
there's weird like Berkeley's their baits scale really weird. When they go 3 to
do.
4-inch, they like even like the new Nessie, like the 5-inch to the 7-inch is like the 5-inch is like a fluke, and the 7. I mean, I don't know, it's weird.
I
Like
feel like that 5-inch is really hard to work. I would assume.
probably I don't know, but they scale their baits weird.
It seems like glide bait's talking to Noah and certain guys. Like when you downsize a glide bait, there's only a few that they seem to be a lot more touchy as far as working them, what they can do, the tightness of the waver and all of that based on just the size of that bait. And I haven't played with the smaller ones much.
I haven't thrown either one of them, but I got a couple. But
So much crap coming out now. It's crazy. And the bass are getting smarter, but they still eat a jig. I mean, but it seems to be changing where they're harder to catch. They're getting more pressure. You get more kids fishing. You got more adults fishing. I mean, COVID, you want to talk about
yeah, I don't know if
getting
they're.
people fishing. I mean,
I know we had a bump in license sales, but it doesn't sound. I mean, maybe we'll see it because I guess a lot of these high school kids don't necessarily have to buy a license until they're like 17 in a lot of states. But like I don't know. Like when you look at the license numbers, we did have a bump over COVID, but there hasn't been like we talking about. I think there's more people tournament fishing, but I don't think there's more people like actually fishing that much more. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Like the numbers don't really support from when you hear people talking about license. Like Ken Duke is like always gets on that soapbox, and it doesn't sound like there's really that many. Maybe there's more people wearing jerseys now, and more people with high school fishing jerseys, and more people more
think bass fishing's growing.
organized fishing.
Bass fishing's growing. I mean, when have you seen parents with walleye boats thinking about switching?
Yeah.
And like parents are changing the way they fish because of their kids now. And I think that's probably the biggest thing I noticed from when I was a kid anyway. It seemed like I was the only one of few kids wanting to get out there and do it. And now it seems like it's probably times by...
Although I'd say a license is probably not indicative, right? Somebody could buy a license and go once versus somebody that goes 20 times with a license. So I think there's more concentrated, organized effort around bass fishing at a younger age. I would say that.
There was one of us from Rocori High School when I was graduating, and it was me.
Yeah.
And now there's 40 kids.
I didn't know anybody.
50 kids. So you multiplied me by 50 from the time I graduated high school to today. And I guess to me that we can't sustain that growth. So I think it'll probably level out just due to kids like to catch fish. And if they ain't catching fish, they're probably not going to keep doing it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not making new lakes for sure.
We aren't. The spraying thing's gotten real interesting, and I think I've always wanted to have like a DNR or biology type person on here to talk about that. Have you ever had anybody on who talks about like spraying or anything?
Not anything locally. Not anybody that's like in our market.
You've had some cool ones about like southern strains of fish,
the spotted bass, and the Alabama bass taking over and displacing smallmouth bass and stuff like that.
That's a wild one.
Yeah,
like that's a wild.
I think that's
one.
real.
Do you think that's coming? Like, do you think we deal with that in Minnesota? Like, genetics of fish reproducing and mixing together. Like, you don't want them pipsqueak little bastards, getting their hands on those women.
Yeah, I don't think we know enough about spotted bass range to really understand if that's a concern.
Spots are the issue.
Right. It's the Alabama and the regular, I guess not even it's the Alabama spotted bass that seems to be like displacing the smallmouth in like North Carolina and Georgia and in places like that.
Are those?
I don't think we know enough about them to know whether they could survive in Mille Lacs.
And I don't think they're making their way up. It would take some significant felonies to get that.
But it would only take a couple.
That's a good point, but I don't know who would want that. Like, I
Yeah,
have
but it's
no
probably more
desire
like a
for
series
that.
of, right? Like, sure, they make it into Illinois, and then they make it into Iowa, and then all of a sudden, well, that's not that far.
I feel like them spots would do well in like them old iron ore pits.
Yeah,
like
maybe.
that'd be like, yeah, start getting, do some guided scoping
there
up
is
there, get
like
the job economy going.
the Kentucky spots do live in southern Iowa in reservoirs, my
Oh,
understanding.
really?
Yeah.
Those are them are them Kentuckys. You don't want them
Yeah.
Kentuckys. You want them Coosas, from what I've.
I don't think we want either
understanding.
one of them up here. We'll drive to Missouri if we want to catch them. I don't think we want them here.
That's interesting.
I think they're in the Mississippi, though.
spots. Southern.
Yeah, the Kentucky ones are. Yeah, like, I mean, they're in the Ohio River.
Right.
That connects to the Mississippi. Like,
Right.
I don't know if they just don't want to go coming north. They don't feel like if it gets too cold, it's out of their range. I don't know.
I think what's I guess more alarming to me would be the Asian carp thing coming up. Just like
I mean, they're
talking-
here.
Right, that's just it, and it's just a matter of is it because we get winter that are they not able to like reproduce as
Or is it that
rapidly?
our vegetation keeps our water cleaner so they don't thrive and they don't have as much sediment?
and
no
and
idea.
I don't know, but what I know is they're as high as the St. Croix, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and they might even be a pool higher. And I guess we're not far from them. Like,
As anglers, we develop special bonds with our equipment. There's something magical when you find that perfect jig rod and reel combo for a technique that elevates your confidence on the water. Whether it's a perfectly balanced, crisp, and sensitive jig rod that gives you the highest level of control over your bait, allows you to feel every grain of sand, every bite, and allows you to drive that hook clean, or a rod with the perfect action and taper that seems to keep your ChatterBait, swimbait, or whatever it is in the back of the bass's head where it belongs no matter where you throw it, or a rod that allows you to effortlessly cast a lighter bait you used to cuss at on your old combo. These types of magical bonds are rare to find in a mass-produced sweatshop, which is why Veselka Fishing and Customs came to existence, with the sole purpose of bringing you closer to your passion by enhancing the bond with you, your rod, and the bass. Confidence is everything in bass fishing, and there's no bigger boner buster than losing a big fish, not feeling like you can present your bait correctly. The list goes on and on. Mr. Veselka is a full-blown artesian craftsman who can build you the perfect rod, no matter the size or action, custom, exactly the way you want it. He also has a wide variety to choose from right on his website, including fan favorites like the 8-foot hair jig rod, the drop shot rod, swimbait rod, the chatter chicken rod, the MH workhorse, and more. Even ice fishing. You do the whole frozen Swiss cheese thing, the ice fishing. Seen grumpy old men? Well, you can send that jiggle stick back to the antique store because Mr. Veselka builds custom ice rods in all sizes and actions too. So head on over to his website, veselkafishing.com. That's VOCELKA fishing.com. To enhance your confidence on the water, feel your passion, and catch more bass, baby.
Hey guys, Gaff with Waypoint English Supply here. Just wanted to highlight the fact that we have the big bass resource right here. Obviously, everybody in Minnesota knows about Kitex and the littler swim baits like these bait labs here. But we're here to have the big baits here in the store. We got Huddlestons, we've got the dangerous swim baits, the jointed claw glide baits, and the bull shooter glide baits. But it's not only the baits. We've got big rods, big reels, big line, and all that good stuff for you guys to go ahead and chase your biggest fish of your life. So swing on into Waypoint English Supply and get hooked up with the biggest tackle around.
couple
That's-
pools higher, and now we're talking out towards our neck of the woods, the gateway. There's no dam, there's less dams
Yeah.
between, because Monticello Dam, right? That would be the last frontier, kind of, before we get to like the.
Oh, I don't think there's no lock at the Coon Rapids Dam.
I don't know.
That's a fixed dam. That's not a navigable dam. So that, right there in Coon Rapids and Noka, there's a couple dams that keep them away from the rum and the upper. I don't think they can get up those.
Because have they gotten Kentucky under control more? And
It seems like it's kind of. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I don't think they're still there. They're still very prevalent, but it sounds like they've kind of equalized a little bit. Kind of, I don't know. It's not my expertise, but I don't know if that's, the commercial fishermen. Is that just Mother Nature balancing things out? They boom and then they settle. I mean, you see that with other things, right? Like New Lake effect, right? Like there's always booms, new introductions. Milfoil,
Right.
booms, but then it tends to. I always had that same theory that Moyna had about the crop rotation. And
Was a fascinating
I
conversation.
was like, I've thought the same thing. Yeah.
Well, it's. I mean, the universe has a weird way of balancing itself in a weird way. I mean, and I'm not saying we can't fuck it up because we probably can, but it's interesting how that crop rotation thing was something I hadn't thought about.
Yeah. Is there a chance that pondweed will balance itself out and run its course? And that'd be nice.
Wouldn't it? But that might be the one caveat of global warming. If it gets warm enough, that shit ain't gonna grow.
Maybe.
That stuff is. But what blows my mind is people who spray that shit.
Yeah.
It's like, it's gonna die in 2 weeks, right? Like what they did to Sauk Lake when they took nuked it and took every weed out. I mean, that lake used to be.
Well, I heard a story about Candlewood Lake, I think, out in like Connecticut. Kind of like our lakes up here, grass, clean water. They nuked it all, and now it's like a murky. Like the homeowners all wanted all the grass gone, and now they got, instead of this clean green, clean pretty water with grass in it, now they've got this muddy, gross looking water because it's just sediment and nothing's cleaning the water.
Yeah. Now
careful what you ask for.
Yeah. Now
homeowners.
Now you're like wild pigs. Just go roll in the mud. That's
you're just gonna have a
way
lake
more fun.
Flake full of carp just turning up silt.
Who wants filtered water? Yeah. Who needs filtered water?
Want your kids swimming in a carp cesspool?
Bring the grass back.
Yeah. Same reason you like those pretty flowers in your gardens and your nice green lawn. You want that in your lakes. It filters. It's life cycle. It's biology.
This
Science.
is a public service announcement to all the lake associations in the state of Minnesota. Please stop spraying your goddamn grass. Thank you.
Mechanical harvest. I can support mechanical harvest.
And
control.
fact. But you've seen more fisheries than probably a lot of people I've talked to. How many regional and national championships have you fished?
So I guess 4 national championships, 1 weekend series national champion, and 3 Bass Nation national championships, and then I don't know, probably 15 or 20 regional events over the years.
It's super impressive, man. And the fact that getting to nationals is no easy feat. In fact, I think it's one of the hardest roads there is, and there's only a few people who've made it through, and I think you've made it further than pretty much everybody who's ever tried. So that's something to be very proud of, I guess. I know you didn't get as far as you probably have aspired to, but I just want you to know from my standpoint that I think that's something to be very proud of, and I think it's a good showcase of your talents, and I think just getting to where you've gotten there is a taller feat than people can assume, and I don't think people understand how tough fishing is down there sometimes and how different it is than where we're at.
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of what I want to dig into a little bit is you've proven yourself in a lot of different parts of the country, but I've experienced just the fact of pure difference in type of body of water, and that can be super intimidating. And I guess what have you learned about that? And I guess what are some things that helped you, swallow that a little bit better and make it more palatable when you had to be there?
Yeah, I think helped a little bit is thanks to my dad and the guys in Gopher Bassmasters back in the day when I was 10, 12, 14, is we used to go down to Pomme de Terre and Table Rock and Lake Fork and take some of those trips as a kid. So that definitely helped to see some of that and understand what a shad is and what is a reservoir and what's standing timber and starting to grasp some of that as it helped. And then also knowing that fishing gets tough down south. You got to recalibrate and I think Lightner talked about that when he was on here quite a bit. Up here, if you're not culling by 9, you're probably getting your teeth kicked in about 80% of the time. Whereas down south, most of the time you're shooting for 5 to 10 bites a day. That's a pretty solid day. So you have to recalibrate your mind when you go down south a lot of times. Now there are exceptions. When Kentucky was in its heyday on ledges, and there's definitely good events. But even yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago, Wesley Gore, who top 11 rookie, I think he caught 5 fish on Toledo Bend.
What do you have? 11?
Yeah. He got. I mean, but the day before he had to basically scratch out to catch 5 to catch like 16 pounds just to stay in the mix, and then he busted like 23 again. But it's fishing down south is a grind. The other thing I say is that you have to. I mean, fishing the Mississippi helps because then you get to see the shad.
I agree with that.
And that helps translate to down south to some degree.
Moving water, rivers, there's a dam aspect where they're pulling and not pulling.
But I would say the biggest thing is horizontal moving baits play down south more than they do up here because of the shad. I think it's because of the shad. So like a spinnerbait, a rattle trap, square bills, all these where the balsas originated that we talked about. That originated from down. That's why I think a buzzbait works up north, but it's way more effective down south, I think.
Interesting.
Like gizzard shads, I think is like a buzzbait connection with gizzard shad, maybe.
For sure. Yeah.
So understanding some of that stuff
with gizzard shad and topwater, especially. Late.
So just going down south and just flailing around a finesse jig or a Senko can put you behind the 8 ball. I think you got to learn how to cover water and use reaction baits a little more and understand that flipping a laydown up here is almost always the best option.
It's a good one.
Yeah, right. But like sometimes a square bill or crankbait down south is a more effective tool on a laydown.
That's what's weird. It's like you go down south, they're like, "No, dude, they seen 10 jigs. You gotta worm that. Yep, keep your rod tip up. Keep your rod tip up. Yep, worm it right through there. Stop it. Mm-hmm. Yep, and you bang it. You're banging a treble hook. Like that's a death sentence for most guys up here.
Yeah.
But the fact that like the hardest adjustment for me, going from Minnesota down south, is structure just does not matter as much for me. Like when I've gone down there, like it matters.
Some of that's the bait. I think.
Exactly. That's totally what it is. And I'm noticing like,
or at least maybe
starting to get more that way up here. Like maybe it's because we're learning it can be that way, but there's definitely, I feel like that's an aspect up here, but the movements of the bait up here, I think, is so much less.
Yeah. Well,
like the shad, they move so much more.
I mean, I think our bait is more weed centric, right?
Yep.
For obvious reasons. And
well,
down
it's
south,
the most dominant.
Right. And then and it's bluegills and it's perch. I mean, we have our exceptions. We've got, lakes with pelagic.
We got shiners.
Yeah, but even the shiners, they like to be in the grass, right?
Oh, yeah.
Crappies
Grass,
like to be around
rocks,
grass and things like that.
Grass, rocks, wood, right?
Yeah.
Docks.
But down south, like shad do migrate to backstick creeks and hover in creek channels and do lots of weird things.
Move up and down
that we just don't have to deal with nearly as much.
Right. And something that I think that those southern folk have really dialed in and they're super in tune to, that I think a lot of us forget, is like they're really in tune to the size of shad that they're eating. And I think we overlook, bluegill size, perch size, and I think it's hard because I don't think we think it matters that much. And I guess I haven't found like a magic thing there, but I just in talking to you here, I realize that I do think that's something that I overlook up here is bait size a little, within
Probably,
reason. Like post
sure.
spawn, I'm definitely throwing something smaller and bigger, for example. And, there's times a year where I definitely, thinks key in on either a smaller or bigger size, but I don't think we understand that a bass probably wants to eat a smaller bluegill than a bigger one, just from the standpoint of being able to digest it and keep swimming about it.
Safer from a survival standpoint.
Totally.
Eating a big bluegill is a risky proposition for a bass.
Yeah, like what were you thinking, bud?
Yeah,
like
you can choke on that. You're going to spine in your throat and you die.
That's like, it's like, how do they, like a bass that takes down like a 3/4 pound bluegill tail first? Do you think that happens, or do you think they flip it around in their mouth? Because that sounds painful.
But on the flip side, eating a 12-inch crappie is way safer than eating a 10-inch bluegill.
Think so?
Yeah, crappies are soft.
They are softer. Yeah, to your point.
Those back dorsal fin. I mean, how many times have you caught a bluegill or something and you spined yourself with a bluegill? Have you ever spined yourself with a crappie?
No, that's a good point. I didn't really think
They're
about
like a
that.
soft rayed dorsal fin.
I feel like they eat a lot more crappies than we think they do.
Crappie's a thing.
It is, I guess. And
bass eating crappie is a very, and that's not just here. That's
down south. That's a big deal down south. I mean, I remember hearing stories about Cody Huff when he was coming up, and them telling me stories about how he would just crush these big bags on like bull shoals, and it was 100%. He figured out where them bass are eating them crappies, and exploited that when no one else did. And I think that's a hard bite to exploit, though, because you look on your sonar for us, it's like, are those bluegills or are those crappies?
Yeah.
So how do you determine a crappie bite? I guess how do you hone in on a crappie bite up here? Because it's something I think about on the daily, but I don't know how to freaking.
I can't say that I have the answer or that I've exploited that.
Sure.
I do know that O'Connor carries a panfish rod in his boat and catches panfish in practice to see what they are.
Whether they're crappies or bluegills
Or perch.
Interesting.
Sorry, Connor. If you want people to know that or not, but I guess he said it on my podcast.
Keep them fucking wax worms out of your boat, boy. Just kidding. I mean, with crawfish, I've seen that be a difference
set traps
maker.
by your cabin. What color is the crawfish? How big is it?
Yeah, and I haven't gone. I've had crawfish traps
I
in
don't
my
do it.
cart on Amazon, but I've never followed through with it.
I mean, I've never done it, but I've had people that I've stayed with that have trapped crawfish.
Well, I heard they taste pretty good. Them mud bugs.
I've never had the northern crawfish. I've heard
You gotta taste better than the mud bugs. Like a rocky
2
crawfish
years ago,
gotta taste pretty good.
when they had the TBS semifinals up at Vermilion, I guess I didn't get invited, but the Wisconsin guys had a big crawfish boil up at Vermilion.
I'd heard that. Yeah, I'd heard that.
Thanks for not inviting me.
Well, you are from Minnesota.
I guess they invited other guys from Minnesota, but whatever. That's the other.
Was it the Wisconsin guys who had it or Minnesota guys?
Wisconsin,
Well, yeah, you weren't supposed to be there.
but other people from Minnesota got invited,
Oh, I gotcha.
so I'm bitter.
Well, we just gotta make our own crawfish boil. I don't know how to do it, but
I'm actually a pretty good cook, but I have no idea about crawfish boils. But
I feel like you could YouTube it. My cousin used to live in Louisiana for college. He's a big chef, so I remember he'd make gumbo. That shit is good.
yeah,
But I don't know how he did the crawfish. But I got to think that a clean Minnesota natural lakes crawfish tastes better than a bottom of the barrel Mississippi end of the Mississippi.
how big a crawfish
muddy.
do I need? Is it like 3 inch, 4?
That's probably where you're gonna get a little more meat on the bone down south, right? But I've never tried. Rusties get pretty big up
Yeah,
here.
no, I don't know if those are good either. I guess I just don't know much the
I mean, I
selection.
caught a Mille Lacs craw that even a rage tail would not have been big enough. So I had a weird crawbait that I've seen that was just wild. That I think you probably would either think's gay or you might appreciate it. It's behind the gizmo over there.
So you using that secret?
Shh.
Is that the powder that they talk about?
Maybe.
Okay. So this thing? That crawfish?
Dude, grab that. That's actually a gift. I just got that from a buddy.
I got this in a snap the other
That
day.
came in the mail the other day. I'm just wondering if I could scope one with this. It's called the Big
If
Booty
you have
Bait.
young children and you're watching this on a smart TV, have them look the other way quick.
It's called the Big Booty Bait. Yep. In fact, I'm gonna go up and show the camera while I grab this other bait.
Okay. I'll keep talking.
Have you,
entertaining.
this thing is
It's a little odd. It's unconventional, I think is what we would say. Unconventional. That's probably a little too close. There you go.
wide angle lens.
GoPro. Just,
Thing's weird, eh? What was it?
Raid.
This is I was not drawn to
This is the Waypoint backstock secret room stuff.
I mean,
It's like a lobster.
right? It wasn't something I had my eyes on.
Zara.
But when he gave it to me and I put it in my hand, I was like, oh, fuck.
Oh, talk about your classic over packaging and. I thought
Definitely overpackaged.
I thought Japanese people cared about the environment, but maybe not.
We put it in the tank, and I've never seen a crawfish like that move.
The
like that.
Zaraganist.
Yeah.
It does kind of remind me of the old. I mean, it's thicker and heavy. It's almost like a heavy poop with appendages, is what it kind of feels like. It's very dense and
Supposedly on a swing head, it's like.
But it kind of reminds me of that old craw bug, like that yum craw bug
Yeah.
or the mad craw or whatever that thing was. But it's not hollow. It's not a tube. It's very firm and thick-bodied.
This has I was just mostly amazed by the movement of it, and then the stop to start action of it.
Perch would just eat the arms off that thing on certain lengths.
It's Elastec, I think.
Oh, it isn't?
Yeah, that's why there's only 3 in a pack. They're super durable.
Maybe we should test it on one of these arms that's not so critical. That's not elastic.
Okay.
But it's kind of a I mean,
I'm gonna make it match.
it's not super soft. I think it would be hard to pull. I mean, they're not. It's like a higher durometer plastic, but it's not elastic.
To me, it reminds. I haven't seen that new Mega Bass craw, but I think that thing looked kind of stupid, to be honest.
Which one?
That sleeper craw. Basically, the
yeah,
dark
no.
sleeper craw. Like, I'm not on that train by any means, but if I can put it on like a football jig or to me, Mille Lacs is where you could probably make some hay with
It's
that.
weird because I don't feel like super ultra realistic craw baits.
It's more about the movement with this bait, I think, than and the
'Cause, like-
profile.
Like Huddleston had their craw bug,
Yeah.
which was super realistic, but that never caught on. And then you got like that the sleeper craw. And there's just been other super
never
realistic
done well on
craws. Although that old Lake Fork craw,
Okay. I'm not
just
familiar.
like it was like it would almost look like you dropped a craw in the mold. But I used to throw. Andy Young likes to throw that on a jig. He caught him from time to time, but I used to throw that on the Mojo a lot. The Mojo rig. I feel like I need to get back to the Mojo rig.
That's the only realistic craw pattern where I've had it feel like it makes a difference.
Yeah, on a hard bait.
Yep, on a hard bait.
Yeah,
Yep. We'll leave it at that.
but there was
The
no
Z-Man craws.
the realistic Lake Fork craw didn't have any movement. It honestly was basically a Ned, oversized Ned. It just kind of flowed.
Well,
know
if
what
you
I mean?
look at a crawfish on the bottom, it's not like they're like, over here, no, over here,
Right.
no, over here. No, they kind of scoot. They got a little bit of erraticness to them, but it's not a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
don't
not
I
like
don't,
a guy drowning, you know.
I don't know that a rage craw imitates a craw to a fish. You know what I mean?
I would agree.
They probably think it's more like a bluegill or something like that. I bet.
The guys I know who are good with a rage craw, like Hatton really likes a rage craw, and where he's catching them on it, I think I agree with you 100%. I think it bulks up the profile of that jig and it slows down the fall, kind of huddles down like a bluegill. And to me, it's just a matter of, it seems like there's two ways to trigger a bass, and it's more aggressive action or less aggressive action, right? You've got a spectrum of everything: more aggressive, less aggressive, smaller, bigger, faster, slower. And learning how to twist the knobs of those
Yep.
spectrums is basic. That's the guys who are the best fishermen I know. They know how to tweak the knobs of all of those spectrums based on the day and how the fish are telling them to do it. And that's
Yeah,
so fascinating.
that's the only thing we got left. Now that we can see them everywhere they are.
Right? We have these dials we can turn faster, slower, heavier, lighter, less finessey, more finessey, and then you got that you can twerk on them now. You're the ChatterBait aficionado, and I guess I owe a lot of credit to you for my favorite ChatterBait trailer now, which is that Arsenal Tactical Minnow.
Yeah.
And I slept on it too long, but I just bought a bunch from Dan last night, and I feel like that still flies under the radar
Yeah.
because it doesn't say
I think-
Zako on it or something.
I think because it's a paddle tail, people don't look at it. But it's not. I mean, the paddle tail on a tactical minnow is so whimsical that it doesn't fight against the chatterbait. I guess so there was a period of time where there's a lot of people throwing like rage craws and big moving, big paddle tails and things on chatterbaits, which they do catch fish. But I think you have to be mindful of what that's doing to your chatterbait. The more drag that's on your trailer, the truer and straighter your chatterbait will swim.
Right.
The less you're fighting the head, it's basically like, I use the analogy. I'm not a big archery guy, but there's a reason you put fletching on an arrow, because that drag straightens the arrow out. If you didn't have fletching on an arrow, it would hunt, it would dive, it would sway. So like if you want your chatterbait to be erratic, you want a minimalist trailer.
Totally. Keep going.
So-
Keep going. I'm listening.
And there are times of the year that, yes, you do want something with kicking legs, a lot of pull on your chatterbait to slow it down, make it run higher, not be erratic, because the fish, talking about those knobs and levers that Teal was talking about. But I think day in and day out, the most consistent and best performing chatterbait trailers for me are the ones that are this, you see the trend to the spunk shads of the world and things like that. And I think the tactical minnow rides a nice line where it doesn't really fight the chatterbait, the jerky jays. So the tactical minnow is like a jerky jay, but it's got just a tiny little paddle tail on it. But
And what's crazy about like a jerky jay is it's almost like boing, boing,
right,
boing, boing, and like, so I have not figured this deal out, but like to your point about straighter or tighter a bait being, how that affects your chatterbait, like Keith Tuma's figured out a deal with this where that 3/4 ounce, if you put this, it almost is so stiff that it makes that bait do weird, wild stuff.
You think about, you want your chatterbait and the blade to put the action into your chatterbait trailer. You don't want your trailer dictating the action of your chatterbait.
Totally. So like for a Keith Tuma style with that 3/4 where there's speed, to get that 3/4 to do stuff, he claims he needs a jerky J, right? But I think with like a half or a 3/8, which is what I typically throw, I think that tactical minnow is a better option, because that jerky J is almost making that bait hard to keep down for me, and that's how I feel about it anyway. But that tactical minnow, Dan smoked me with it one day and watching you fish it, and I'm a believer. He was sold out of them for like a year.
And it holds up.
He just got them back in stock.
Sorry if we sold out of them. That might be my fault, partly.
Well, I couldn't get more for a while, and thank you for that. Not.
But so the reason I saw the bass puzzle,
Yeah.
the grass piece, bass puzzle grass piece, right?
Yep.
Have you thrown this?
I have not.
Yeah, I haven't.
Got
I've
him
got an aftermarket homemade garage one. One of my members sent me
That's
to
cool.
try, but I haven't got to throw it. But at first glance, I look at this and I go, it doesn't look like something that solves the grass puzzle. It sounds like something that catches grass when you look at it. You don't look at it at first glance and go, oh, that's going to come through grass. Amazing.
For sure.
But I guess it
first
does.
glance.
And people are catching them on this. I'm excited to potentially try these this year. But
Can't get them. I mean, Ross at Waypoint scoured to just get me 2 of them. And I honestly, what I like about him is if there's something you can't get, if it can be got, it's findable. Now these, I don't know if he's going to be able to keep finding these for you guys. So I'm sorry. I'm not making promises.
I think they're
for
going
him,
for
but
exorbitant prices on eBay. You can maybe get them on some of the overseas sites and pay for them. But yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
Well, to me, I mean, if you're a chatter, that is not a magic pill, from what I can tell. That is, to me, a specific situation where that is going to really shine, because it's not going to hunt at all, really. From the sounds of it, that there's not a hunting aspect to that bait, but it's about speed with it.
It's almost like
and
a
how
short.
it
It's
falls.
almost like a chatterbait and a short arm spinnerbait, like that old Zorro Colorado.
Kinda,
right?
yeah.
Like, and then its chatterbait had a baby.
I think that's probably a really fair analysis.
So I have not thrown it to know when it's going to play, but it, is this the thing like, certain times, the Stealth Blade or the Mini Max plays? Is this a variation where you can show them something different? I don't know.
I think yes, and the big thing with this, I think down south, if you're a guy down south, this becomes an even deadlier tool because of how fast you need to move your bait sometimes. The big thing about this bait is you can reel it as fast as you want, supposedly, and it does not blow out on you. So, like, there's situations on, like, bull shoals in the fall where you can't reel a plopper fast enough, and it's all about that speed. And if they see the bait, they ain't eating it. It's all about that reaction. So, like, Kenta, from the sounds of it, Kenta won a pretty big event on this bait. And it's designed to be fished with like a fluke style, but it was a burning scenario. But the thing about this bait is when you stop it versus a normal chatterbait's going to nose down like that. This is going to shimmy. So you can input more speed into the bait and more of a stop and flutter.
The rate of stall.
Yeah, so you can have more speed and a better stalling effect. So that to me is where Topsa coontail or eelgrass to me is where that can play up here. But to me, it's going to be a more niche scenario, I guess. That's kind of what I got out of
Just
it.
another arrow in the quiver.
Totally. Supposedly the half fish is more like, sounds like it's a step up. So like the half's going to fish like a 3/8 jackhammer, 3/4 is going to fish like a half, supposedly.
So a little more pull, a little more drag on it.
Yeah, which, makes sense. Like kind of like a spinner bait. It's going to have, that's pure resistance there. It's probably going to want to rise.
How long before the Berkeley has one that makes it readily available for the rest of us?
It won't be long. Well, honestly, I feel like this is a pretty easy one to knock.
There should be one by this July, right?
I feel like compared to the other chatterbait, this one's got to be way easier to knock off and way harder to patent.
Well, yeah, and you can't.
You got thickness of the blade.
A Japanese
you got connection
patent
point,
doesn't
you got
hold water in the U.S.,
shape.
right? Because that's why you
Right.
probably have some other vibrating jigs up here from Japan.
I don't.
But
I was gonna I don't know which ones to get.
Yeah,
and they're
but I mean,
expensive,
there are
and
some,
the
but we-
grams and
yeah.
the blade size.
Yeah. I don't
there's-
own any either, but I know those exist.
Are those a thing? Like, are elite guys using some of them sneaky chatterbaits and not talking about it? Is that like I don't
Maybe.
know. I don't know.
I know some regional guys, not here locally, but I know some guys that swear by some of those kind of oddity Japanese JDM chatterbaits. But I've never messed around with them.
I haven't either.
They still eat the regular jackhammer, chatterbait's pretty good. Even like the custom. I actually had a pretty good day on the Thunder Cricket. Not that last year.
I believe it.
Caught some bigs on it. I kind of had it tied. I think I had it tied on because we went somewhere that the pike were harassing me. So I was like, I'm going to take this old Thunder Cricket out. And then it was on the next time I went out practicing. And all of a sudden I was like, man, they're really eating this Thunder Cricket.
Oh, shit. I mean, it makes sense. And I guess for me, if they're not eating a jackhammer or a mini max, I'm probably picking up a swim jig or a swim bait.
Sure.
And I guess for me, this grass puzzle is more so like, I don't know, I'm a tackle fanatic. And I guess, I don't know how much I'll end up throwing it, but
I have a place that I would like to test it.
there's so
you want
many
me to
rabbit
help you?
holes in the sport. And I guess to me, you can only go down so many rabbit holes. This podcast is brought to you by my compadre, my tournament partner, my brother, and the best rod builder above the Mason-Dixon line, Veselka Fishing and Customs. Specializing in custom fishing rods. That's right. Hand-built fishing rods, custom-made and tailored how you want, whether it's by length, action, specific technique, balance, or anything you want. Anything. Veselka Fishing and Customs can build it. Mr. Veselka also has a wide variety of rods to choose from, which we've had a lot of fun with, perfecting and testing. The most unique and famous rod developed at Veselka Fishing and Customs is his custom Marabou hair jig rod. Have you thrown the old Canadian dinner mint, the Harry Gary, the fighter fly, the old thin Lizzie? If you have, then you know these little fluff balls can be hard to cast, especially at those key sizes as light as 1/16 of an ounce. Well, what if I told you you could cast that Marabou jig 30 to 50% farther than you're casting it now? What if I told you you don't have to spook those shallow, skittish smallmouth? Well, with the custom hair jig rod from Veselka Fishing and Customs, not only can you cast a lot further, but the way this rod loads up on a long cast is pure perfection. This balanced rod has the perfect backbone with a light action parabolic taper that keeps those fish pinned without breaking your line. Mr. Veselka utilizes an 8-foot custom fly fishing blank converted to a spinning rod and couples it with premium guides leading up to custom fly guides that allow maximized casting distance and reduced line friction and blank slap, maximizing your overall performance, obviously. And we found this rod is not only perfect for marabou hair jigs, but for any light bait you need to cast far, including small swim baits, spy baits, and more. Any light bait you need to cast far, look no further than the Veselka Fishing and Customs Hair Jig Special. So head on over to his website, veselkafishing.com. That's VOCELKA fishing.com. And treat yourself to the custom hair jig rod or any custom rod you can dream up. In so much time and be effective.
I got to be practicing my live scope. I got to be trying this JDM bait. I got to get better at this. I got to do this. It's like, and I also have to do all those other 7 things we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. It's like doing my job and doing media and driving my kids to soccer and right. Like I don't fish as much as some people probably think I fish. That's the problem.
All I want to do is be Alice in Wonderland and just dive down the rabbit hole and never come back. But I don't think I'm a better angler when I just dive down. I really have to, believe it or not, show a little resistance and be very selective about the rabbit holes that I go down to make sure they're going to benefit me the most. Because you can overcomplicate things, dude.
Yeah, I mean, every year I say I want to get better at like glide baits and big swim baits, and then it's something that kind of falls off when rubber hits the roads and I got to find fish in a tournament or make a video. It's like, man, I'm probably not going to throw this big glide bait much today.
You know Will Poppenfuss?
Met him yesterday.
I was talking to him last night. I was like, dude, I'll be honest with you. I think a guy could win a walleye tournament within the next year on a glide bait. And the dabbling I did do with that bastard this year, like Ross got me a couple shads, and I did spend time with them, and every time I would spend time with them, I would catch a giant fucking walleye. Like giant.
Are we talking the OG or the new Spro?
No,
Spro?
the Spro one. So like scoping, it seemed like I've never found like a magic big walleye triggering mechanism, but like if you could see a big walleye on scope, seems like they freaking come unglued on that shad. So he bought 3 of them and he's gonna try it. So I'm actually gonna be following the walleye tour next year just to see if he caught him on the glida or not.
It's probably not the event in Pool 4 next week, but maybe one of the other events. I did have one tournament this year where a glide played effector.
Really?
Yes, but it was in practice.
Okay.
So on Clearwater, I was playing around with the Spro, shad.
That would be the place out
there. And I didn't catch any on it, but I pulled up a wad of fish that were staging.
East side? West side?
Is it, I think, south end, kind of?
Yeah, probably east.
Anyways, there was a drop there, and I threw this there was like a flat, and it broke off on a drop, and I threw it over there, and then a pile of 2 to 4 pounders came up behind it, and they followed it several casts in a row. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll fish here during the tournament.
It's funny you say that, and I don't know.
Didn't catch them on it, but they showed me where they were.
But like, I almost don't even want to say this, but there's only been one lake I've done some damage on a big swim bait. This is before the whole glide bait thing. I'm talking about 5.8 Kitech big swim bait, and that's Clearwater. I don't know what it is. I've tried, and then so we, top 3 multiple events on it, and never won one, but always are real close. And it's probably one of the more unique things I've figured out there, and we're gonna leave it at that. But I haven't been able to duplicate it on any other lake.
Yeah, I had one lake this fall where I was able to throw the same guy that paints these crankbaits. He builds a custom gill wake or a gill glide that I have.
I feel like those are pike killers.
I didn't catch any pike on it.
That's
but
good.
I finally caught. I think I caught 4 really good bass on it before I dinged it off a dock post and cracked the tail off. So that same weekend that I lost a $40 balsa, I also broke a $150 swim bait on a dock post. It was a great weekend of fishing.
What time of year was that when you were pulling them fish up on the glider on Clearwater? Just curiosity.
June, I think.
Interesting.
Like post spawn,
yeah. Were they sitting up on the flat and you pulled them off the flat, or were they sitting off the edge and you pulled them up?
I think they were sitting. I kind of threw down the shoulder, paralleled it, so it's hard for me to say where I pulled them. But I'm guessing I pulled them kind of off the shoulder or up.
That's one thing.
Because I should have been able to see him if there was that many fish up on top. It was not super deep.
Well, that's, I guess, like learning from Noah. To me, like that glide bait is as not or more of an effective practice tool just for locating them. To your point, and you might not catch them on the tournament day, but you find where those schools are. You can find them quicker because that drawing power of that glide bait shows more fish. So I know that's a practice tool for him, and I guess I played with that a little on Lahamadou last year, and I feel like I was able to locate a couple of groups of fish that sure as shit 20 other guys had found. But
turns out they showed themselves on the jigworm, they showed themselves on the lipless crankbait, they showed themselves on everything else.
They did, but it's a matter of how long do you have to soak the jigworm on that spot,
right.
And you probably had to hook that fish either in the mouth or in the gullet to figure out. And then how many did you pull up with that, and were you scoping when you caught it? That glide might show you there's 50 of them bastards there, and a lot of bigger blobs versus littler blobs. And now you've got if you're good enough at reading scope, you've got a scatter plot of size, so to speak. Which I have. That's the one thing I haven't figured out is how big a bass.
I need reps. I need more reps.
Same.
One thing I've learned listening more this year, I guess kind of a little bit here. These guys are not just scopers. They know what they're doing.
Yes.
They have a talent and a set, and they still understand how to break down water. All of you guys that say that scoping's easy and it's a bad take, I'm here to tell you.
I agree.
Guys like, if you listen to Drew Gill, any of his interviews, the guys like, and Wesley Gore and some of these other guys, you hear how like they keep their ratio of like their distance to the depth pretty consistent, so they can always keep their scale correct, so they understand what a the blob size remains consistent.
Yep.
And things like that. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to get back out and get some more reps on it, because that's the biggest thing. I mean, yeah, anybody can see a dot, and it's not that hard to get. It's surprisingly how quick you can get good at casting and figuring out what 30 feet, what 60 feet is. Like, that doesn't, to me, I guess for me, wasn't that big of a deal. That came pretty quick.
The distance part,
the distance, agree. And I mean, it takes a, but that wasn't that hard. But starting to understand, like, how, I got to stop throwing at 12-inch bass or 10 inchers. You know what I mean? Like, because like to get that, like and start being selective at what you throw at and covering water and not casting at every dot, knowing which dots to cast at, and then it gets into the like, what are the fish telling you? Reacting, bait selection. Should I be throwing a drop shot? Should I be shaking ahead of them? Should I be like should be throwing a jerk bait and like working through those scenarios really fast, and then getting good at so you can do all those things in adverse conditions, in wind when things aren't perfect. Right.
Well. And so that distance thing and hitting them, right? I think, that's probably the biggest thing to pick up. But talking to them good scopers, like there's this skill of micro panning.
Right.
That these guys have, and understanding
that fish is quartering to the left and I actually need to lead them. Yeah.
Right. So
and
now we're talking 60 feet and they know, like, what's crazy about scope is how wide that cone gets, and that's what I didn't realize. So you could throw 10 feet off a fish, 60 feet out. Like, that's where that micro pan to me seems.
They're like evaluating it. They're micro panning on the fish to confirm size, confirm whether it's going up or down. Is it tailing left? Is it tailing right? Yeah. Is it? And then they're like centering it and then determining whether like is the fish moving? Should I go at him? Should I go past him? Should I go to the right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like their cone is from that end of that bar to that wall, right? So they see a fish, and now they understand when they're centered at that fish in the cone, it's going to be the brightest. Yep. So that's when it's in the middle of the cone. So they're panning, literally shaving the color on that fish,
and then
basically.
Also, is it sitting steady next to that weed clump, or is it actually swimming? So now they're micro panning to see, is it holding or is it moving? And then how far do I need to lead it? And are these fish reacting to baits that land right on their head and drop down to them, or do I have to go past it and then lead it to them and make sure it's going into its natural presentation and swim or glide of the bait before he sees it versus some unnatural presentation?
Well, I'm talking to Fothergill, even the amount of splash, right? Like down to the amount of, that bait didn't hit the water hard enough, or that bait didn't enter quietly enough. He'll reel it in.
Yeah, so some days, you probably want it to hit splash hard because they're aggressive, and
or
you can just call them in, right?
Yep.
And other days you need to like throw way past them or not make an entry, otherwise they're just gonna spook.
Yeah, and then the distance factor. I mean, anyone who says that's easy, go try to do it.
Yeah, I mean, sure. There's instances probably on northern fisheries and smallmouth where you like, I went out and I caught 100. Well, yeah, there are up north. In the spring, when fish are fresh and dumb, it's probably like, you can just see a blob, catch a blob, see a blob, catch a blob. You can throw an edge, you can throw a drop shot, you can throw a spoon. It doesn't matter. They eat it all. Yeah, there are days like that. But day in and day out across the country, it's not that easy.
Dude, I can throw an acorn out there and maybe hit a squirrel, right? But to get intimate with that squirrel, to understand, when that squirrel's going to move, why, its mood today, like these guys are intimate. Like you are with your most confident technique, and then times it by 10. That's how much time these guys have spent, and that's how intimate they are. They're like Rich Lindgren with the dock intimate.
Sliding it inside that pontoon ever so gently.
Skip the full play, baby. Get in there.
Yeah. And the time, like a day two, like we're in the Toledo Bend Elite Series matinee.
Yeah, I haven't checked.
But hopefully Pat Schlopper, former guest, would be closing the door right now. But in day 2, he was talking about he went down to Texas a whole month early.
Yes.
Bless you.
Thank you.
And practice scoping Texas lakes, obviously other lakes, not Toledo Bend, to get ready for this tournament. And obviously it's paying off for him.
Big time, dude. And it's cool because he was talking about that new tech and new setup, and now he's like going for blow with Fujita.
Yeah. Which I was thinking about this driving up today. It's like for the average person to get to the learning curve now, I feel like I was thinking that electronics actually was making it easier, but I'm starting to think it actually might be making it harder. If you have a day job and a family and you only get to fish a few times a month, and especially if you live up north, you probably need to be out ice fishing to hone your craft to get good with your electronics. But like to not be able to get the time and the reps in to be at the level that these guys were, like, if you can't take a month off like Pat did to get ready, I don't know. Like, I don't know. So I think of guys like Ron Nelson. You know, he's won like MLF, AOI Invitationals a couple years in a row. Declined a BPT invite at one point, and then accepted it this year. Like my understanding, he pretty much works a full-time job, rarely fishes at home, shows up at the tournament, and like competes at a really high level. That to me is like insane. That guy is an outlier. As much as John Cox is an outlier shallow fishing, Ron Nelson is an outlier of like how good can you imagine if he actually applied himself and like if he took a month off to like get ready for tournaments and like could do that?
Yeah. I heard good things about him.
Yeah.
I mean,
feel like I need to have him on as a guest.
It'd be a good one. I'd tune into that one.
But I mean, and I think like even like, you know, Bob Downey, you know, pretty solid journeyman bassman, but he's still working quite a bit. Like I think he still like works remote a lot. I mean, he does make time, to like go out and like do some stuff in the evenings, but he doesn't like, you know, these guys like, you know, the new guys. A lot of these, you know, Ben Milliken is literally on the water like 5+ days a week. Kyle Patrick, these guys, you know, the JT Tompkins of the world, you know, even Matty Wong now, he's kind of set himself up where he just spends a lot of time on the water. Like it's hard to compete, I think, with that. And And I was at a live stream last night, and I honestly think that we're going to see about 50% turnover in the next 5 years on the elites. I think these EQ anglers coming in are going to be, they're so tested. They're not going to be one and done, two and dones. They're in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
They're you know, the old, you know, make it in 3 working mans, you know, people are complaining, but those guys like probably burnt out on a 50+% like rate. I mean, sure, guys like Swindle, and there are guys that are legends in the sport that came through a single division, the opens, but for every one of those guys, there's at least 5 that like, you know, qualified on the Red River, you know, and a couple other tournaments, and they showed up with their, you know, kicker blade spinner baits, and then they start traveling the country, and like they couldn't figure it out enough in 2 years, and they'd be gone, right? Either financially or how to catch bass or all of the above. These guys come into the EQs. I was thinking today, like, of the 9 EQs last year, what do you think the over-under is that make the Classic? I bet you at least 7 of them make the Classic.
I would agree.
I wouldn't be surprised if all 9 did.
I would agree. I mean...
So if that happens, and there's 40 Classic spots, then how many Matt Herons, Kobe Kriegers, Ray Hanselmans, you know, really good anglers that have been journeymans for years aren't going to make the Classic now, are now going to be starting to slide into that 60, 70, 80 point range.
Right.
They're just literally... There's going to be a huge turnover.
It's been
I mean, I know we're bringing in 10 anglers every year with the Nation and the EQs, and that's been a thing for a while. But the level hasn't been there.
Those
where,
guys
like, basically
used to come in and whoop.
I would say 50 to 60, 70% of those guys would be gone in 3 years because they wouldn't make it. And that would allow these journeymen to like establish, you know, Mark Menendez of the world to stay in there because they're good fishermen. But I think they're going to get displaced because I think 90% of the 9... You know, 80, 90% of that 9 or 10 is going to stay, and it's going to just completely, you know, like half the guys will be new in 5 years. I think that's my take.
Right. Well, I won't pretend that I've interviewed the best fishermen on the planet, but I'll tell you, of the fishermen I've talked to, Easton Fothergill
that's
is
what I said.
the best.
If you don't think
angler
Easton Fothergill
that's ever sat in his garage
is not going to take one of those 9 spots this year and not be on the elites for 10 years, I think you're kidding yourself.
He's the chosen one. Like,
I hope he takes. I sent him a text after Okeechobee, and I said, hopefully you get all those top 10s out of your system before you hit the northern swing and give the rest of us a chance.
Those were the two events he was most worried about too, which is crazy. And the way he thinks, the openness, the pure listening to bass, like that kid is more pure than I guess I would expect from a young scoper, as far as like he's not just going out with a freaking Demiki rig,
and he's not just a scoper either.
He's far from a one-dimensional angler, and I guess that's, to me, the misconception about some of these guys coming in. And talking to Fothergill, I mean, he can flip a jig, he can scope a minnow. I mean, there's not an element to his game that he doesn't feel comfortable at least pursuing, and he's in constant. He'll never tell you he's got it figured out. He's always like, that kid is on a constant. He's in my garage asking me more questions than anybody I've ever seen, and it's like, dude, I should be asking you questions. The kid's a sponge.
And one of his best buddies in college was Wesley Gore.
Right.
And that guy, yeah.
I'm excited to talk to him.
Did you listen to that one that I did with him?
Yeah.
He put some juice down. There's some really good nuggets in there.
He's a hell of an angler. I'm excited. I'm hoping to interview him at the Classic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's sharp. These kids are not screwing around, dude. Like,
they're coming for your lunch money.
If you're not working on your game, they're going to come in and take it from you.
Here's a public service announcement to all the veterans that like take their falls off to go turkey hunting and deer hunting. If you want to stick around, you can't afford to do that anymore.
Right.
Sorry.
That's,
I think, sad but true. But like you take care of things at home, but you might want to start limiting it, like how many Alabama, Oklahoma football games you're watching in the fall, how many hunting trips you're taking. You better be working on your game, because these guys are.
It's like hockey in
Minnesota. And that's fine. If you want to do it, then you might want to figure out how you're going to make a living other than tournament fishing, because I don't think you're going to last long. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but I think that's the truth. That's my take on what I'm seeing.
That's a disadvantage for us up in Minnesota just with winter, I think. And I mean, what we gain in versatility up here, we lose in fishing time, where they're sharp year round. We're, maybe more versatile and we're more diverse anglers, but we do it half the time.
Yeah, I think the days of the David Dudleys, the Andy Montgomerys, or the Andy Morgans that don't do a lot of fishing when they're not tournament fishing. I mean, sure, we talked about Ron Nelson, but like that's a dying breed, I think. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm seeing.
I hope guys like Seth stick around, because
I mean, he's got some good years, and he's got at least one AOI.
I think he'll adjust,
but he has to evolve, and I think he knows that. I mean, if you talk to, he was just on with somebody not that long ago,
Mercer or Zaldane,
yeah, and I think he understands it. And he's not like, he's taken a very different approach than the Matt Herons and the Caleb Kufalls of the world, who are very like adamantly like complaining about it instead of doing something about it.
Right.
I don't know what they think is going to change by complaining about it instead.
I mean, Kupal.
I get their frustration, and I understand, but I think their response to it is not the right response.
No, because Kupal has never been a points guy. He's never been a points guy. He's a one-dimensional angler, and if that deal's going, he might win. You know what I mean? But I don't see how forward-facing changes that for him. Besides that, if he doesn't win, he might not qualify for the elites again.
Right. I think he's another guy that is probably in danger in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And I like him. He's a good dude. He won 2 AOIs in the Great Lakes BFLs back in the day when I fished him. He's a great angler.
Yeah. I mean, he's won more Elite Series events than we could ever dream of. And then he won an Open, too, I think.
Yep, Smith Lake.
Yeah.
Which they're going to.
Right.
Different time of year.
But that's a lake it's a scoping lake typically, and he won it.
But he won it on largemouth, which I don't.
Flipping.
Yeah. Which would be interesting. But I would like to see the elites put more grass largemouth, non-smallie fisheries, and see if that can. That's the only thing in my mind that curbs the current trend. Is grass largemouth fisheries without smallmouth. But
God, I mean,
and there's not that many of them.
If I'm fishing the Elite Series, I'm like, can we go to a good lake and catch big smallies now? Like, that's me as an angler. If I'm fishing those, I want to fish some smallmouth tournaments more than I want to fish some.
Yeah, I mean, they got 2, right?
But...
Right. I mean, so they got 2 of their 9 this year. Last year there's 3 of the 9, but I think I was saying this last year, like last year when this really started bubbling over, it was the end of the year. We had 3 tournaments in a row that were all smallie dominated and all live scope dominated. If you think about it, the fan base, that's a uneven distribution proportional to put 3 events up north compared to where the fan base is of the viewers, right? Like
You think
Alabama,
so?
Texas.
I think there's a lot of viewers up north now.
There's a good chunk, but I don't think a third,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Like of the hardcore viewers. So they probably year in year out can't do more than 2. And I think, you know, at one time Champlain was a diverse place where you saw people like Fighter catching 6-pounders under pontoons and
Right.
then somebody throwing a topwater for smallmouth. That was interesting. But then now when you've got 3 events in a row where everybody's got a spinning rod, driving around with one hand in their pocket and the other hand not casting, like you're losing people there. So I think
That's because they're
We-
not
we
showing
need-
the screen.
yeah, even
I'll
when
be
you
honest,
even when you show the screen, if the guy's just standing with his hand in his pocket, just riding around the trolling motor,
Watching
You're-
Robert Gee's screen was the most addicting thing about live
sure.
on Toledo. Not to argue with you,
no.
but
But I mean, there's parts of it, but there are people that don't care about that either, right? And that,
yep, and I get that.
and we need some diversity. And these are the same people that probably can say that bed fishing tournaments are boring.
The thing is day one of that Elite Series on Toledo,
They didn't. They put
you
them,
got to watch people do what people wanted to watch people do, and they didn't catch them.
yeah.
So it's like, would you rather watch a guy flipping endless grass? Would you rather watch Greg Hackney flip an endless grass field all day and not catch him?
I think what we
Like,
just need is
you know
we
what I mean?
need to have one angler down the corner.
I think you
Flip-
should be able
flip it
to
up.
choose who you
That'd be
follow.
kind of cool. That,
Choose
I think
which
that
anglers you
probably
follow.
is the solution.
That is the solution.
Is that if everybody, like, because you can stream through a GoPro. So if Bassmaster could get technology set up where they could have live GoPros and people could select and we could get there, or at least a bigger majority, like
That's
doesn't
the
have
next
to,
level.
Doesn't have to be everybody, right? I mean, 100 or whatever is probably a lot, but like if we could get to like 20 anglers, and that you could always make sure that certain,
If I could watch Bob Downey, Seth,
Right.
and like pick my favorite guys and watch them, and then pick the leader, and then try to that's
make your own 4-box.
such a cool experience.
Yeah.
Like that's an educational experience too. Like, how's the leader fishing? He's catching them. Okay, Seth, what's he doing? Right? Oh, what's Bob doing? You get to. It paints the picture better.
It would be
paints the picture
amazing
so much better.
technology to do that. If you could create your own 4-box, right? 'Cause you're like,
That's what I'm
I
saying.
actually just want to watch my fantasy team, or I just want to watch my buddies from Minnesota. I just want to watch my past guests.
Right.
I just want to watch the leaders.
Right.
I just want to watch my heroes.
Right.
Or whatever, or any combination of that.
Choose your own adventure.
Right.
Right. Oh, I want to learn. You can put
You're like-
complimentary stuff and different anglers up. Oh, I want to just enjoy myself. I'm going to watch G-Man all day.
Right. So it could be like, hey,
you know?
I want to learn about live scope. I know Fujita is super good at it, but I know he ain't talking to me today. But I could tune in and watch Robert Gee and Zaldane, and they're really good at explaining it.
Yeah.
Right. So you,
And you could
and
see
I
his
think it
screen.
could really allow certain anglers to make a name for themselves if you could get some kind of close to that technology where they could
Big
really
time.
develop their brand, and they could
now
start
you
to
have
have
followers.
and you could have followers and ratings and be like, actually,
Your followers
you know,
are on the water
Kyle
with
Patrick actually has a 37% draw. I'm just making it up, right? Or
Oh,
like
yeah.
he's a fan favorite or whatever. Or Gerald. I mean,
Dude, and that 100% that translates to sponsors,
Right.
and it's the anglers' individual sponsors. What it maybe would hurt is bass and bass sponsors having to, them being able to.
I mean, they can still
put
put their
direct that.
They're still going to have their commercial breaks and their overlays and all that kind of
I
stuff.
think you could still incorporate all that.
Yeah.
To your point, I mean, talk about that's next. That's I think if they're not looking into how to make that happen, I feel like they're not looking in the right direction because as far as experience for
I know
people watching the sport.
MPFL has a thing with their fixed TV where you can pay like a little premium paywall, and they have like 4 extra anglers that have dedicated cameras, and you can choose to get access to those. So if you wanted to watch Patrick Walters or John Cox or whoever all day, you pay $5 a month, and then you can, I don't know.
How much would you like? That's worth something. To your
I
point,
mean, if I had-
MPFL, I'm not going to pay to watch that. But
Yeah,
if
I think
we're Elite
MPFL
Series
is
guys, is
Bassmaster.
that worth $30 a month?
If you had full, like if you said if I could choose from like 20 plus anglers and I could pick my 4 and create my custom box, I'd probably pay at least $20 a month for that.
Totally. I think I would too. I think I would tune into more events. I think I would be more excited about watching fishing, which I do like watching live, but I think I would be, what pisses me off about live is sometimes I wish I could watch this guy wailing on him, but there's only a camera in this guy's boat today. Or all of a sudden the wind switched and this shallow bite, all of a sudden they're not like, I was waiting for it on Toledo, somebody to just crack them at the bank one day. Like, oh,
Could be happening right now.
it could be as we speak. Yeah.
I do think bass, where they could take something from MLF will pull people and switch cameras.
Yeah.
Whereas like bass, once they lock in with the 6-10 cameras for the day, they seem like they never change. Where I feel like they should be like, you know what, you get a camera, you're guaranteed the camera for 3 hours, but if you don't have signal, you don't have this, you're not catching them. We reserve the right to. And I guess the final day, right? They put cameras in all the boats. But I mean, like during the first day and the 50 cuts, like it'd be good to hop around, get some variety, and even have some cameras actually out, like not in the boat.
I agree 100%. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, it seems like the money's got to be there for it to
That's the problem.
work.
We're still mostly fishing for each other's entry fees, so I don't know where all this money's going to come from.
A
So,
subscription model, to me, if you penciled out $20 a month across how many of those subscriptions you would sell, you can't tell me that don't pencil out,
Right.
because right now it's free.
it's chicken or the egg,
And
though.
they can still do what they're doing right now and have it be free. But how much more could they make by allowing? I feel like that, in my mind, that pencils out.
Yeah,
But
I
I'm
don't know.
not
What
a
the, I don't know.
numbers
I don't
guy.
know what the
I'm a
technology
dreamer.
cost is.
I'm a dreamer.
But like MLF had their. They had
They
a
gotta
subs-
get
Most tournament anglers and guides are not covered fully or properly. Most insurance policies don't cover exposure due to tournaments and guiding. Taking the chance of using the wrong insurance gives the insurance company an out when settling a claim. How will the insurance company know that you're fishing tournaments or guiding? Well, social media is their number one resource. And guess what? They use it. Lake Country Insurance offers one of the only products that can cover both tournament and guiding use in your vessel. Anglers don't seem to hesitate spending $50,000 to $100,000 for a boat. Why risk that large asset, all because you wanted to save a few extra shekels? Are you nuts? Call the folks at Lake Country Insurance today and make sure you have the proper coverage for your boat before the unexpected happens. Call 612-285-3113 today or visit their website, lcisagency.com. That's lcisagency.com. GoPros anyway, right?
MLF had a subscription model, and I don't think anybody paid for that premium access. That went away pretty quick.
Totally.
So,
But we talking Bassmaster.
yeah, I know.
baby.
I'm just saying,
We're
like,
talking
and I don't know
Bassmaster.
what it would cost back end wise to have that choose your own adventure $4 or whatever. I have no idea.
Okay. Sponsor involvement from individual anglers for that, right? So, you've got like your Bridgeford team, you've got like your Berkeley team, like, and you get, I guarantee you that is incentive for sponsors to have that be a thing. So what if you got participation from anglers, individual sponsors, like where that angler has a sponsor his live stream for the Elite Series season, right? So now maybe it's, a shared cost between Bass and the angler's individual sponsors, knowing that they both benefit cohesively from that elevation in the media and the sport.
Yeah, I haven't.
That would be, because to me, that's the interesting thing about, there's a lot of disconnect and a lot of moving parts in the marine industry, and that's definitely what makes it more challenging to, push the envelope on some of these things, because the industry itself is behind pretty much every other industry just due to the clunkiness and separation of companies.
And remoteness of playing fields.
Right, geographic, yeah, all of that. But to me, there's there's got to be some sort of like there's enough market there now with this one high school angler to 50 now, let's call it, per school from 2011 to 2024. You've multiplied your youth participation by 50 on average, let's say.
Yeah, but I guess the other thing is that high school angler watching Bassmaster Live, or are they watching Call of Duty, I don't know, whatever the popular streaming video games when they're free time? I don't
Probably times it by 4.
Okay.
To your point,
Yeah.
right? Because to say that every angler is as big a crackhead as I was in 2011, I would have been watching it. But talking to some of these kids, they're like, we don't like watching bass fishing. It's boring. I was like, what?
Yeah, I mean, like, there are more kids participating, but they're not all. I mean, you've probably done some captaining.
A couple times.
Right. There's a wide variety of intensity and right within and skill level and
It's like a box of chocolates.
passionate.
You never know what you're going to
you
get.
got kids out there that are out there because I don't know, they didn't make the football team, but their mom wanted them in an activity, right? You got people that are kind of, I wally fished. I thought it'd be cool. My buddy bass fishes, so I joined the team. And then you got people like you and I that were kids that are just ate
My
up with
son's
it.
a
And
wussy. I need to get him back outside.
whatever,
something.
right? There's everything.
I think there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, it is a sport that, it's tough for, you're always only going to get a certain percentage of guys who maybe crack out to that. The question would be is, though, does it improve the viewing experience enough where it would maybe bring in some of those, less crackhead-like anglers because it's more entertaining to watch? Like for me, they're probably going to get my viewership either way, right? Mm-hmm. But for those people who could pick who they want to watch, that kid who's like, this is my favorite angler. Like when I was a kid, I had favorites, right? And if you could pick those
Right.
and mix them around, and now you have this like experience that you can change for 8 hours as they're fishing, and you can kind of make it what you want to make it, change it as it goes, like that. I don't think it would decrease, I guess, that viewership.
Yeah, but I think there's probably like, I don't know, like my dad likes bass fishing. He probably watches a little bit live. He ain't paying $10 to watch anybody. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
So I think it's a younger demographic that probably is willing to do that. Now I do think like if it could be angler driven, I bet you there's a lot of MFers that would pay $10 a tournament to watch Ben all day.
Alone.
There was so much rage in the chat when he was like just outside the top 10 on day 2 and they didn't have a camera on him.
Isn't that something? Like, so to your point, you got guys like that coming in, and that's going to bring more eyes on the sport. There's a reason they're elevating that guy. It's because he put in the work to elevate himself, and they're trying to capitalize on that viewership. And I think they're doing a good job. But I think
maybe there's like
it would put less pressure on Bass to feel like they got to elevate this guy versus this guy, and the cream would naturally rise.
Maybe there's a crowdsourcing monetary split where it's like a G-Man, a Ben Milliken could have their own like stream, and somebody pays $5 and Bass gets 3 and Ben gets 2 or whatever after profit or whatever. And like, and some of these anglers, they could probably start to prop it up and get that thing in motion based on a handful of anglers. I think guys like Seth, Gerald, Ben, those are 3 that come to mind that like.
There's guys that want to watch Seth rip darts and flip a jig all day. Like, you know what I mean? That's something.
And there's guys that would pay
to
just to
into.
listen to a hot mic on Gerald Swindle all day.
100%. So
Ben,
I think we just
Scott
need,
Martin.
Right? We just need Elon, dude. We just solved it. We just solved the world's problems. So, Elon, if you're listening, you know what to do. Unless you can pull it off.
Well, like I said, I'm working on some things to do some self-streaming. So we'll see.
That's right. Sorry, Elon. Dude, but that's...
But I also have a vision where I could do like a bass challenge live, where I like send you an invite, and you can go out on your little pond back here, and I go on my little favorite pond south of town, and we have like a 5 bass challenge for 4 hours, and we stream it live. Like
I'm in.
Right?
I'm
like,
down.
I'm working on trying to figure out how to do some of that stuff.
Yep.
I could do one thing to have you in the boat, but like, or if I like, let's say, hey, Matty Wong, you got a week between your practice, or you're between 2 tournaments, and you're in Oklahoma. Let's do a live VVF where we'll simulcast to both our YouTube channels, and we'll have a bass brawl.
I like
that.
that.
A 3 bass challenge or a big bass challenge or whatever the stakes are.
It's a super cool deal. I guess
Don't
I'd want
steal my
even
idea.
DNR. Yeah, seriously, don't even think about it. I'll participate though, as long as the DNR surveys are, kind of,
Right, but we
within
could
a
tailor the
similar-
challenge, whatever. It's just the first guy to catch 5 or the first.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
you could,
yeah.
we could
Get
you
super
could take it.
creative.
I mean, this is not like we're at this point. I'm not betting somebody $1,000 or whatever, but it's for fun and bragging rights. It's
Totally.
entertainment. You both
That's a cool.
potentially
show.
have earbuds in so you can talk to each other and hopefully have somebody somewhere that can read the chat and ask questions and
I like that idea, dude. You should do that.
yeah.
Yep.
So, but probably the biggest challenge is connectivity,
Coverage.
getting the strong enough signal.
Well, that's why I shouted out to Elon, because he's got that Wi-Fi, like that flying Wi-Fi. You know what I
Hey,
mean?
Earl Bentz, do you have like a Wi-Fi booster you could put in the 2024 Camus maybe?
Mr. Benz? Bueller? Maybe? Probably not. But, I mean, Bass, to pull that off, they just need like Starlink, like tap into the right Elon satellite. I feel
I mean, they do.
that's-
Like,
kills the
I
coverage
honestly
thing.
think that I know when they were at Wacky, they spent quite a bit of money, like on Wi-Fi, satellite, cell phone boosters to get signal out there to
Sure.
to do the event out there.
Well,
I don't know what that cost is, but
Well, I know. Sounds like for Wi-Fi in Ukraine, it's like 95 billion or something. Sorry.
that's slightly out of my budget based
Yeah.
on my subscribers right now. But
Based on what they're telling us, Ukraine costs to, keep all that rolling, it's not something that's going to happen anytime soon. But that seems more like a money laundering scheme to me anyway. But anyway, not to get political, but Starlink, I think between Starlink and our idea, I think the Bassmaster Elites could see some serious growth and more opportunities for our youth moving forward.
there you go.
I didn't think we'd solve this many problems
It's
tonight.
been pretty good.
We're 2.5.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Probably go another 30.
Figured. Yep.
So I see you got that tool over there. Talking about solving problems, that one with the green handle on it there, next to your waypoint hat, the plier.
Yeah.
So
Naughty little
it's
tool.
something I haven't really put videos out. Clearly, it's a great tool for saving your favorite stickworm,
Yep.
but it can save you a lot of other soft plastics.
Really? Care to elaborate?
So I have a 3.3 Kitech on a jig head.
So that Arsenal Wacky plier.
Yep, that's no Wacky pliers. Slightly smaller band that my buddy TK rigged up on a 3.3 Kitech in
Okay.
June. It's still on the rod, the same Kitech that has been catching walleyes and bass and everything else and rock bass.
On a jig head?
Yep. It made the Kitech last like 4 months and caught dozens and dozens of fish.
How?
Wish I had it with me. I was going to do a little video on it. But it's not just for wacky rigs. You can put it around the head of a swim bait. You can put it around the body of the swim bait where the hook pops out. So kind of like picture your 3.3. You put a little girdle around its midsection where you would have the hook pop out.
Yep.
And you thread it on and the hook comes out right where the wacky band is. Think
Yep.
how long that Kitech would last you.
Oh. Uh-huh. So,
And it's all above the tail, so it's not affecting the action.
are you putting the hook point through it or ahead of the hook point?
The hook is going to come out in the middle of the band.
Okay.
Or it could come just above it. You could rig it a couple different ways, or it could just be snug to the hook where it butts up to it. You could a couple different ways you could do it.
I'm gonna just have you show me quick, and people aren't gonna be able to see it good enough. So your video, they're probably gonna want
Right.
to tune into
You
your
can
video
also
more after this.
Put it on the head of baits, and then up where your hook is, to make it not tear out and last as long.
I've been trying to think about this, and I have not figured it out. So I'm literally this is a really cool technique.
It's not just for Senko's people.
What?
Yeah, you can basically use jig trailers, last longer. Bubblegum one? That's a lot of pressure.
I don't know. No, not too much pressure. I'm just more so conceptually. I'm trying to, because you have a cylinder, and is my band too
That's
small?
probably
or-
fine.
Okay.
We're gonna find out what jig head of choice here
I've
is.
got a lot of choices for you.
Well, it doesn't matter. Whichever one you would, whatever.
Let's just do a standard gummy
See
ball
if on the
head.
core
Or
tackle.
Actually, let's do that new all-terrain scope TG head. Why not?
A little tungsten.
Yeah. Probably a bad color, but bright enough.
Make it a little easier. Maybe you can see it.
We might be able to. It's got some wild swim.
So you want
here.
to figure out where your hook's going to come out.
Yep.
And so you could actually, this little like flat spot on there is going to be a pretty good spot to put that to keep this thing pretty good on there. So we're going to, maybe I should come in this way.
So you kind of find that spot where that hook's going to come out, and that's where you put it.
Yeah, or just above it. So
You
it
want a
can
bigger
kinda,
band?
I don't know. I think I was using the, I don't know, we'll figure it out there. Maybe I just need to.
I feel like you need a bigger band. I gave you a small one. Depends how far down the tail.
We're doing
I
it.
suppose.
That's probably pretty close.
This is a beautiful little trick.
So we're gonna put kind of like the corset right there,
Yep.
and then it does. But
I mean, this is definitely showing me what you mean now. Oh yeah. So you saying that like
that's gonna lock it on there and keep that thing from tearing, and it can't go backwards now because it's gonna hit that hook point.
Right. Dude. That is a nugget.
Sorry, Omnia and Waypoint, you might sell less K-Tech swim baits now.
More wacky pliers. That Arsenal wacky pliers deal was a super. It's probably one of. I'm not this big tool guy, but that tool is one that I don't have in the boat.
That's one that I keep. Yeah, like if I go with somebody else's boat and they don't have one, or I forget mine, I'm pissed.
Yeah, dude. Like, because with the pliers, it's a pain in the ass.
But you can do the same, like a menace scrub on a jig, other things like that. You can do kind of that same thing and make
What can't you do it on? To your point, I mean, besides a super wide bait.
Obviously, yeah, like big. I mean, maybe some bigger ones, so you can put your 5.8s.
Dude, that's a cool trick. The one I always used to do for, if it was a Senko, that wacky band was my deal. But on those jig heads with a guard like that, a toothpick. Mm-hmm. I'll put a toothpick through and break it.
Yeah.
And that kind of prevents it from sliding.
Didn't All-Terrain, they still have that head that had the holes in the weed guard where you can poke the... They still have that one?
Yeah, Nichols had one too. And I guess I used to hate those style of keepers until I learned about the toothpick trick. And then I was like, between super glue or that, I mean, but this one, I mean, talk about it.
Nifty.
See, those are little nuggets.
Start thinking about other ways you can use those bands.
Yeah, because we
should have a contest here at Bass Galaxy. Submit your best wacky band submission.
Yes, please.
We'll send you a free pliers. Right, Dan?
Yeah, Dan will probably pull that off. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yeah, we know Dan. Yeah, he'll do it. Okay, so
you can also use it to, like, if you can't, trimming your nose hairs, you need to get in there a little deeper.
Oh, dude, I didn't even think about that. It's for me with that. It's figuring out that it's a reverse pliers,
right?
Remembering to pull instead of push. But so, who showed you that? Was it one of your?
I mean, I had done it on jigs, but there was one that my buddy TK, when he was up, he rigged up a K-Tech and did that, and it's been on there, and I caught so many fish on it. I was like, man, like the swim bait's been on here for like 3 months. I mean, most people get 3 months of use out of these, right?
Oh,
I mean, these are known for catching hundreds of fish before you replace one.
K-Tech for sure. Yeah, you need one pack for the whole season. Not. I'm trying to think what else that I get pissed about losing baits on. What about a Texas rig? Like that Do Live Beaver Waypoint creates. I love that bait, but it tears to shit.
I haven't really played with that. You could do some things up the head where you like kind of works sometimes. Depends on the bait.
Texas rig to me is the hardest one, and a screw lock hook to me has been like a little nugget.
Yeah.
For plastics that rip, they make them screw lock hooks that seem to.
I used to throw a ton. That made you think of this, like those rattling brass gambler screw locks back in the day. Those were awesome.
I never threw those. Forgot all about them.
On a Guido bug.
Okay.
Come on.
I don't even know what a Guido bug is.
A Lucky Strike Guido bug?
That sounds like a Guido Hibden
Yeah.
little nugget, but is that the
It's the
prelude to
do
the
nothing,
Biffle bug?
look it'll no, it was like super do nothing. It had like almost no action. Honestly, it was a glorified Big Ned. It didn't have any action. It just flowed. It's like a solid body tube almost type thing.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, like kind of like the Zoom Centipede was like kind of like an OG Ned rig
Yeah.
bait that guys used to catch them on before that deal became popular. It's weird how that works, and I feel like there's almost enough lures out now where every lure is going to work better because like there's enough out there where they're seeing so much of like so many different lures that I don't know how they get as keyed in anymore. I mean, it used to be there's only so many lures made that you could buy, or maybe there was
Yeah.
always a pile of them. I
I
don't
think there's
know.
always been a lot. There is probably more now. There's more colors for sure now. Well, maybe not. Zoom's actually trimmed their colors these days, but it's pretty wild.
It's pretty wild. And now, I mean, if you want to really get crazy, I mean, supposedly they're catching the absolute piss out of them on BWA.
I just can't even wrap my head around throwing that.
I can't either. I bought it mostly just to have one.
Did you throw
But-
the fuzzy dice thing? Did you ever try it? I mean, I'm sure you got some. Did you catch any on it? You want me to stop talking about it? Okay. I just can't I mean, like, for me, there's like, a lot of fishing is mental, right? So there's certain things that, like, it's kind of like probably back to the ChatterBait, the jerky J. There's probably something in your head that just doesn't quite feel right to you,
That's totally what it
and it's
is.
probably why you're not catching them.
Me and Keith talked about it. That's exactly what it is. He's like,
And
just
for
throw
me,
it. I was
like
"Ah,
the hairy
damn,
dice, and there's certain things, and some of the loud color patterns from Japan, and there's just certain things that I don't think I can do.
I feel like this is more up your alley. It's topwater.
It is a topwater,
It floats, yeah.
and they fish it on top.
They fish it on top, or they put weight in it, or they fish it on a drop shot,
Are you gonna
power
make it?
shot. Huh?
Are you gonna make it? Got a little vapor lock there.
Yeah, it's something. The gravitational pull of. My
I mean, I guess
esophagus.
like sitting on the top, it probably would just look like a big dragonfly or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a twitch on top of
And then
dead
those legs
bluegill.
probably never stop moving. It probably just sits there
They're
and vibrates.
stiffer. They're pretty. Yeah, they just vibrate. But yeah, they'll either topwater fish this.
What does
thing?
that thing cost?
$50, but
This one is the last tech. You're actually not going to tear the arms off.
as long as a pike doesn't bite this off, I don't know how you can destroy that.
Yeah. Okay. It is pretty hard. Oh, it's very
It's
heavy.
literally it's over I think it's over half an ounce.
That is kind of wild.
And yeah, I think the reason I bought it is I think if you did get them going on it, I think you could catch 50 to 100 without having to do anything.
I mean, that is the fact that it is a topwater. I don't mind. I'm much more likely to invest in good topwaters because I rarely ever lose a topwater.
Right. And you think about a bait like that with a hook through it, the only thing that's going to destroy it's pike, and it's because you won't get it back.
I don't.
So that
I'm
bait
not saying.
might be
I'm not
cheaper
saying.
than every other
I'm not
bait.
saying a pike wouldn't hit this because pike will hit most things, but I don't feel like this. I feel like a normal, minnow, bluegill, shad type topwater is going to attract a lot more pike than this will.
Right.
Where this will drive the curiosity of a bass more. Maybe I'm making that up in my head. And I'm trying to humanize a bass
no
versus
idea.
the pike, but I don't know.
To me, it could represent like a bluegill. It's a fatter ball, like I don't know how bass see.
I feel like this
don't
just
know.
represents like a big bug or a butterfly or a big dragonfly or something. You know what I mean? Like,
I think they're just like, what the frick is that? I think it.
or
I
like
have
a little,
no idea.
like a, you ever know, like sometimes like bugs kind of like pot up
yeah.
like on the water, like
Oh,
little
like
water beetle
a
things.
school of
Yeah. Like
bugs.
just kind of like,
Yeah.
or maybe with all these moving arms, maybe it'd even just be like a little minnow munching on something and then I don't know. It's wild.
It is wild. Like when this starts beating every other bait, I don't know who's dumber.
Is it
us
any
or
good
the
on
bass.
live scope?
I have no idea. It's top water, so you got, but it's got a hole in it, right? So you got this like rod here. It's got a hole in it.
Speaking of overdone packaging again, I do packaging like in my real job, and it bothers me the amount of wasted space in packaging and
That's
stuff.
kind of like your MO is the packaging efficiency, right?
Yeah,
Well, so JDM lures probably make
especially
it
now,
cringe.
right? We're gonna air freight that. from Japan. It's like,
Yeah, and we thought shipping was bad before.
right.
That's probably a big deal with shipping.
No wonder it costs $50. Probably costs $30 to ship it here.
Probably, yeah. But I guess one thing, like you pay $7 for a pack of Senkos, and you go through 3 packs in a day. I mean, and you use this all season. This might be more cost effective than the Senko,
Unless you have the
Wacky band. Yep. So I don't know. I don't even know if I'll make a cast with it. But
it'd be at least fun to play with off the dock back here in the
That's-
spring and watch when the fish are all swimming around and cruising. You can see are they looking at it? Are they reacting? Yeah.
that's where my head was at, because literally they come in droves back there in the spring, and I'm throwing. It's pretty. You need to throw a stationary bait at dock fishing. I throw a swim jig for 10 casts, and I get pretty bored off my dock. So pulling out a Senko or something. So yeah, I was gonna play with that dead stick in this spring, and I don't know. I have no idea. I'll be mind blown if you see that on my.
The thing that's probably frustrating is if little bass were trying to eat it. I feel like they would have a trouble hooking up on it.
It's a mystery. I've never seen anything like it. It's the weirdest lure I've ever seen to this day, by far. And supposedly they're catching the shit out of them with it in Japan, but Japan probably has like a bait fish that they eat that's like
Like
an
a
urchin.
jellyfish or something?
Yeah,
or
they're probably eating no
maybe it's a
idea.
tidal water specialty.
Oh yes. If you get a strong enough tide and it blows the urchins in, there's an urchin pattern. Maybe. Crab. They make that little drift crab.
Little
or whatever.
squid thing. Yeah.
I don't know,
I
dude.
heard the drift crab was just kind of a decoy to throw us off. He wasn't really throwing the drift crab, I heard.
He's one of the most secretive guys there is. Like watching live,
Kept
you
the-
ain't seeing what
Kept
bait
this,
he's got rigged.
literally kept, not only just turned the garment off, but had a cover on it.
Yeah.
So the cameraman wasn't messing around with anything back there.
That's like another level of secrecy. Like that guy is, I don't know which mountain or which samurais, he practiced with to learn his sorcery, but that guy is a ninja. He's leading right now.
Oh, he is?
Yep.
He overcame Schlopper.
25 pounds.
What was Pat at?
12.
Oh. So Pat's got a lot of room to grow. Like a couple
He does.
bites, he can,
He ain't out of it.
Right.
You put that bait in front of,
1 or 2 good ones, he's right back there.
9-pounder's going to go a long
He's
way for
running
him.
out of time, though.
What?
He is running out of time. He's only got about an hour or 2 left to fish. Here.
That's just it. Yeah, I haven't checked recently, but and I understand why Koi is so secretive. I mean, he's clearly found a hack of some sort. Like that nobody's done what that dude did last year on the Elite Series. You know what I mean? Nobody's taken like when you talk about the background change and the cult, like you're going to a new country.
Yeah, I mean, Taku did it a little bit when he arrived.
For sure.
But, so Fuji, Fuyoa, right?
Koyo.
Yeah, sorry.
Fujita.
Koyo.
It's okay.
Was
It's a
in the
hard one.
Bassmaster Open that Scott Martin won.
Oh, really?
And I think he took like 190th.
That's true.
So,
And
obviously, he's not...
Fothergill was scoping him in 3 foot.
Right, and he's not impervious. And he still has things to learn. So,
Valid. I don't know, man. It'll be interesting where this sport's going, but I think your head's in the right spot with your media, I guess. And so what, I guess for me, I'm, learning this whole process with the media side of things. What's been the most effective way for like you to grow your channel and grow your following? Has it been collabs? Is it bringing in other guests? Has it been changes to your product itself?
yeah. So, a couple things. I'm not super concerned about subscribers on YouTube. Subscribers is definitely a vanity metric. It is important for certain thresholds, monetization, things like that. Don't get me wrong. But I'm more interested in building a community. I would rather, and that goes back to the interaction thing and hanging out and, people that are interacting. I mean, is it cool getting 1 million views or 500,000 or 100,000 views on a video? Yeah, sure. But I'd rather build a solid group and a foundation and have, 10,000 real fans or 1,000 real fans than 100,000 subscribers.
I agree with that.
And I think you're building that here. You got people that are very loyal listeners, probably interact, comment a lot. You run into them, they talk to them. So, but you do need to grow. And to grow that community, you still need to get reach, right? And so on YouTube, it's really about right now in this day and age, you do need to make a minimum threshold of like decent content. But obviously you can't have bad audio. You can't have like terrible, you got to be able to tell us. You got to add value, provide content. There's a minimum threshold, but it's more about the packaging. It's the title and the thumbnail that is the key to get reach. It's the click through, and you have to deliver on it. It can't just be clickbait, but you have to have something that, like, if I make a fancy fishing video that's called Hellabass Bass Fishing Picks Toledo Bend Bassmasters 2024, it'll get like 500 views. If I title the video, will Ben Milliken repeat at Toledo Bend or win again, or can something to that effect, and put Ben's face on it, and then still do this. Obviously I have to deliver on that and say, hey, I opened the video talking about Ben Milliken, he won here, and talk about how that's going to play into my picks. It's all part of the story and narrative, but that'll get 5,000 views.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you're you have to, the curiosity gets the click. It doesn't have to be clickbait, but you have to create some kind of allure, curiosity. So you got to stop the scroll. There's so many options on YouTube, on Netflix, on everywhere else, that you got to get them to say, hey, yeah, I do want to see what they're talking about.
Right.
And then you got to deliver on it.
Right. Well, anybody who wants to start a podcast or a YouTube channel, probably the one thing that we could both attest to is it's no get rich quick scheme. So
No. And
there's not a lot of, it's not like, it's not an easy road.
But then again, that is completely, what I'm just talked about is almost irrelevant on the MP3 side.
Right. And that's been my battle and my challenge, I guess, right? Is like, my podcast is basically the opposite of the current algorithms that are shaping, feeds of new organic listeners. So gaining new people who weren't aware of the show. Well, so that's been probably my biggest challenge, is like YouTube shorts. For whatever reason, my YouTube shorts, they don't get any views. And that's because I clip parts of the podcast, and I just don't think the algorithm likes something. However I'm doing YouTube shorts, the algorithm does not like me.
I've done a little bit of that, where I've clipped like interview pieces with guests and stuff, and they don't, unless there's something really spicy or something, they don't get a ton of views.
Even spicy one.
But if you post those same clips on Instagram or TikTok, they'll probably do better than they would on YouTube shorts.
They do. And so I'm going to try to maybe just do fishing content for shorts, and because Ron Mayer, he has a hunting show now, and his shorts are killing it. But you look at the short picture, and there's a 12-point buck standing there.
Right.
And then you click on it, and the guy's killing it. Like, if you're a buck hunter,
Yep.
I'd rather watch that than watch Ron and that guy talk about killing that 12-point buck. If we only got a minute,
Yep.
you ain't going to tell me that story good enough that's going to beat me watching you kill that buck.
And it's tricky, right? If we're talking honestly and getting nerdy, sorry for the people that wanted to talk about bass fishing, but if somebody's coming in on a short shelf, to get them to turn into a viewer that's going to watch a 3-hour podcast, that's a big leap of faith and a big ask for that viewer.
It is.
Right? So, not saying you shouldn't do shorts, but even if you get 10,000 views on a short, how many of them are going to convert to somebody that wants to sit down and hang out? Like, so yeah, they thought that like blow up on this. Like, I'm sure that thing would make an amazing short.
Yeah.
If you caught one on that off your dock.
Honestly.
Right?
Yeah.
But just because somebody thought that was cool doesn't mean they want you and listen to you and I talk for 3 hours of like the in-depth,
For sure.
And there's an audience for both.
For sure.
But, and like I say, like if you have traditional, like I do have a mix of traditional videos that are like, 3 to 10, tournament. I mean, like it's a little bit easier jump.
Yep.
The bridge to cross than to get all the way to the 2-hour, 3-hour podcast. So just be realistic of what your goals are with that shorts and converting that audience. Not saying you shouldn't do it, but don't expect that just because 10,000 people watch a short, that 10,000 people are going to watch your podcast.
I agree.
It might be
100%.
5 that would or whatever. You know,
For me,
this
it's
circle
channeling your energy.
and this circle and that Venn diagram or whatever. What is that whole like? Here's all the women in the earth. Here, right? Like it's a really small dot on your palm that both those circles align.
Well, it's you have to decide where your time is most valuably
Right.
spent. And I guess what I've found is, shorts is kind of like a scratch off ticket. There's really not a lot to be gained. The odds are really low, so I don't spend as much time on those. We spend more time on the show.
And there's AI that's pretty good at that.
Right.
Which will save a lot of time if you want to do that.
Okay, noted. Noted. Well, I got to pee.
Okay.
And I've been holding it longer than I typically like to. We are at 2:49, so I can pee and we can come back, or we can close it out then pee.
Yeah, I think we could I should probably, as much as I want to sit here, I got a few other things and daughter at home
Your
and
dad,
dad things and stuff. So I
get
think
that.
we're at a good spot, and I've really enjoyed it. And if people like it, leave a comment. We can do a part 2.
I would love that, dude, and really cool to see what you're doing. I know. So I'm in the market for Powerhouse lithium. So I guess, do you have like a code I can use?
Yeah, there is
Powerhouse
an
Lithiums?
HB10 code
Okay.
that will get you 10% off at Powerhouse Lithium.
Which, I mean, 10% off a lithium battery, it's not like 10% off a pack of Chigger Cross.
Right.
It's that's significant.
helps,
So
for sure.
what's the code again?
HB10.
HB10. Got it. Okay. And then I guess for your channels, I guess for people who want to follow you, Hellabass.
Yeah, just search Hellabass. Yeah, whether it's YouTube is the main place, but if your vice is Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, I dabble there as well.
Sure. So yeah, check Rich out, dude. I really appreciate you making the trip. Like, always fun nerding out over different stuff, and I think your perspective is really cool on the sport. And hopefully we can gain you some followers. And not that you don't have plenty, but you can. Yeah, hopefully.
I'm
some guys
glad
tune
to be
in
a part of what you're building here, and it was fun. It was worth the wait.
dude. Absolutely, you'll be back, and
Yeah.
excited to see some of that live content this year. So, well, last question: do you believe in aliens?
I don't know.
Seem like a realist.
Here's the thing: is like I don't know if I've got time to even worry about it. I'm just being honest. I got other things going on, whether they're there or not. I don't know. I watch my own bobber.
Fair enough. Rich Lindgren, Hellabass, Teal's Bass Galaxy, checking out. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.